very big, warm Croatian welcome to Zadar. We're here at the Zadar Royal Cup, our first live broadcast of the season. It is the second event of the 52 Super Series 2018. We have nice conditions out on the water. We lost yesterday to thunderstorms and the Bora wind. We had 30 knots out on the racecourse. Big thunderstorms and lightning in the morning, and that meant that we did not manage to get racing yesterday. Previous day we had a long, slow coastal race, so it's going to be back to business as usual. I believe conditions are reasonably good on the water. The breeze is just building. Joined by Guy Barron from the Prevezza team. Guy, how are you?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
We've, interestingly enough, we've got the cameras on board on the Prevezza, which will get an analysis of every little move in the Prevezza. And I have to say, the last time Guy was in the studio with us was in Portals last year, which was the regatta they won. So today might be their
hopefully it's a good omen. Yeah.
Anyway, this is such a beautiful country. It's the first time we've been here for the 52 Super Series. We did that event in Šibenik last month, and we all had a chance to explore at times. And it's such a beautiful country, just the mountainsides and the natural parks. We had a chance to go up there, and also we've all had a little bit of a chance to go out and see some of the island scenery. And this, I believe, is one of the biggest destinations in Europe for the charter market. And little wonder there are hundreds of charter boats here. I would recommend that you come and experience Croatia for yourself if you're into water sports of any type. And so I'd say we're going out onto the water for race number 5 at the moment. Luna Rossa, their first regatta for the 52 Super Series was in Šibenik. They took some time to find their feet, but they've been firing in all cylinders here, and they're leading the regatta by 3 points at the moment. Guy, your thoughts on Luna Rossa here? They've been pretty consistent, haven't they? And they've just found their level. Yeah, they're doing really well after that opening regatta, a bit like us. Had a very poor first regatta, but have really moved on and looking very strong. One of the things, Guy, that they said, or Francesco Bruni told me afterwards, was that the lead into the Šibenik regatta was so frenetic because their boat was the last to be launched, but a lot of people arrived in Šibenik quite tired. Yeah, similar to us. You come out of a long boat build and go straight into a regatta. We hadn't had any time to test anything to any great degree, and so you were looking at reliability, and a lot of the systems not working properly for them. I know that they had a lot of issues with their runners at the top of their mast during that regatta, and their shore crew was up till 1 o'clock every morning trying to get the runners to align properly. So it's not very good for confidence on board either if the boat's always not set up 100%. And your boat had 1 or 2 little niggles, but it's in top condition now? Yeah, we had a couple of things wrong with some of the systems we tried to put on the boat. We've made a few changes, and definitely looks like it's going a lot better now. We have nine new boats in the circuit this year, and I think at this stage it's really down, or the boats are starting to reach a higher percentage than they were obviously in Šibenik. What are the key things that have changed for this season? Well, I think once again everybody raises their level. There's all the boats, the designers have been able to just make a little tickle on everything, and everybody's tightened up their game in every department. Well, we did have a little bit of a look down the dock with Fearless and Frank Fergal Finlay, one of our sailing experts from the fleet. He's actually navigating on the Gladiator, and this was Fergal when we talked to him this morning about the new boats.
Big standout thing for Azura is their jib tack trough right at the front. Creating better airflow over the jib. I think it's something that the next generation of boats that are built a lot of them will have that. It's the only boat in the fleet that has it, and I think a lot of people probably looked at it when it first came out and were quite jealous they had it, and it will be a feature in the future for sure. And part of the rule for the 52s is we have to keep the boats as watertight as possible. One thing I was looking at
they do it in the America's Cup, trying to get the wind to
you look through the cockpit, it's incredibly clean, and they don't have many penetrations going through the cockpit and through the hull, which makes it incredibly dry boat downstairs, which is obviously a bonus for delivery, but in real racing terms, to keeping the water out of the boat is a huge factor. Sometimes you can be sailing downwind on a heavy day with 20-30 kilos of water downstairs, so any advantage in keeping water out of the boat is massive, and I think Platoon have done a really nice job of keeping their boat super dry.
So that was Fergal just talking through some of the innovations. They say it's the small detail that's kind of personal to different teams. How did you process things? How did you develop things in your boat in particular? I believe you all went down to Persico.
Yeah, we had a meeting early in February when we got the whole team together. But by that stage, a lot of the design work had already done. I think as we finished last season, we identified that we needed to design a boat around our team. And Ergen and the rest of the Turkish guys on boards and on professional had to put in a lot of time to work out what we wanted to do with it. And we're the widest cockpit boat, and that's to try and help all the crew sit out further. And even when we're rocking in the light weather, we can still move our weight around more effectively.
Your main sheet track, I believe, is the only one which is arced?
Yeah, that's right. We put a curve in that to hopefully speed things up and make it smoother throughout. Yeah.
Any other secrets?
Yeah, a few that haven't been working out.
We're going to look at, we always call it the highlights clip, but actually yesterday there weren't too many highlights because we spent most of the day on shore and we started off in torrential rain. But this is what happened yesterday.
Well, it's the third day of the Zadar Royal Cup. The sunshine is gone. We have a very dynamic weather situation today. We've had thunderstorms and the fleet has been on hold, and a strong Bora wind expected in the afternoon. We're going to have to wait and see how things play out.
It's a little bit curious because it's been a big storm with a lot of lightning like half an hour ago, and still some clouds behind me, and it seems like after that we will see the Bora starting to blow. You talk with people like Vasco, he's from Trieste, where the Bora is also famous. They say that it's gonna blow like hell. Like hell.
The Luna Rossa America's Cup program is hugely popular in Italy. They had over 300 applications for their young talent program.
TP52 is part of the preparation for the America's Cup. It's a very good exercise for the sailing team. Mainly we are looking for young grinders, and we selected 7 guys. Some of them are here with us on the TP52.
When we started sailing, Luna Rossa was competing in America's Cup for the first time, and that was the booster for my generation to go sailing.
And it's been super fun experience sailing with Keiko, Vasco, Jimmy, Pietro Sibello. They're all people you look up to when you're young, right?
At the end it was also important for us just to see how the guys were working, their attitude, the mental approach, and I think we are very happy about the result.
On the Quantum Racing, there's a change of afterguard here as owner Doug DeVos comes in to steer the boat. Dean Barker moves to the role of strategist and Terry Hutchison stays as tactician. But who is the boss?
Yes. I'm a little bit more heads in the boat supporting Doug, and Dean's a little bit more eyes out of the boat, helping with the bigger picture strategy and the bigger picture decision making. And we haven't had our best days yet, but I'm certain they're just around the corner as well.
Yeah, the boat functions incredibly well. The communication is always very clear, and it's just a case of making sure we don't try and overcomplicate things.
So Doug, you're the glue that holds it all together.
Well, I don't know. I took a few things apart yesterday. They're back together, and they're all in one piece again. But I think the whole team holds it together. I mean, it's not just one person. It's the atmosphere that's created and the culture that's created, and that everybody buys into to make it work.
In the end, this local strong Bora wind is too much for racing, and racing is cancelled, and so the standings remain the same, with the Luna Rossa on 11 points in the lead, Platoon second on 14 points, and Phoenix third on 17 points. Well, after 2 days of light winds, now we've got too much wind as this strong Bora comes through, and that gives the teams a little chance for some downtime.
It's a pity that we are not able to have 1 or 2 races today, but it's good because we have a chance to watch the second game of Brazil at the Cup.
Well, that was yesterday. I say the Brazilians having a good chance to watch their national team. Of course, hugely passionate football fans in the World Cup. And Guy Barron had time to watch the World Cup, have you?
A little bit, yeah.
And?
I'm glad England, we won one, but it was a bit close, wasn't it? Croatia's doing very well, though.
And Scotland?
No, I haven't followed that. But big guy will give me a hard time
for
not knowing the result.
You can tell me that the last time Scotland was in the World Cup was a long time ago. And he was just a little nipper. Right? Anyway, a few words about Doug DeVos coming in to steer the Quantum Racing. Obviously, hugely experienced helmsman, has done many of these regattas, but it's incredibly hard to step in and just pick up the baton from somebody like Dean Barker.
Yeah, for sure. But on that boat, it's just got to be probably one of the easiest boats to be able to step into. They already know what they're doing. It's a very close-knit team. They sell the boat extremely well. They'll be giving him plenty of feedback, I'm sure.
They will indeed, but it's still difficult, and I think that's been one of the factors. I mean, the precision that you have to have in this fleet coming off the start line is incredible, isn't it? It's down to centimetres, not metres.
Yeah, and I think the pressure's felt all the way along the rail as well. You know, if you haven't done a good job, you can feel everybody sort of suck in their breath, you know. But were you trying to blame him for getting too close with the boats?
Not at all, not at all. But I mean, on that note, just a few words. There was obviously a collision, a glancing blow, if you like, and they lost their bowsprit. What does the shore team have to do to what are their contingencies ready for that kind of eventuality?
We'll get the spare one out. We carry a spare one on the water and also a spare bobstay as well, so we should be able to change it on the water if it happened between races. Just given the time, you can ask the race committee for a slight delay. Obviously, back at the dock in the evening, you've got to get the cut grinders out and get the carbon dust going.
How many bobstays? How many bowsprits would you carry?
Oh, I've actually got two, but one's in the container and one's on the water.
Right, so it's not commonplace, but it's not unknown. Anyway, let's have a look at the standings. As I say, we've done 4 races so far, 3 Windward-Leewards and that marathon coastal race. Luna Rossa at the top of the table, their second regatta in the 52 Super Series ever. The challengers for the America's Cup on 11 points. Platoon in second on 14. Phoenix in 17, Sled on 18 and 4th, and Preveza there in 5th on 23 points. And it's still pretty close, say from 7th, where Quantum Racing are, up to 3rd. What can happen today, Guy, in terms of the results? Do you think this could be the kind of what they call the moving day?
Well, yeah, I hope so. I mean, looking at our results there with the 11th on the first day, and then the pretty good results after that, I'm really looking forward to seeing our guys do a bit better. But it's so tight, you know, as said many times so far, that there's going to be quite a few disappointed new owners at the end of the season, new teams. There's so much all on it, and you know, now we come into this second regatta, and some of the boats not doing so well. It's very tight, and there's going to be a lot of pressure. So very tricky, I think.
You know, we've been watching the races. It's been a very open race course, hasn't it?
Yeah, I haven't seen much. You've seen more than I have. I've only been following the tracker there and sitting in the container.
It's very shifty. I mean, the left pays kind of early on the first beat, and then the right in this wind direction. Wind direction we have seen is 3:30. It's been 3:15, 3:05 the first couple of days. So it's very much out of the same quadrant. And so you know, we've seen different boats up there. Phoenix, got a few words about Phoenix, a team which had some time to prepare. They've had a two-boat program coming into Palma Vela, for example, and a new team, but clearly they're doing something right. They have Ed Baird on board.
Yeah, I think Ed Baird seems to be gelling it all together. Tina seems to be doing a great job. I think a little bit surprising to just come in at this level and really hit it that well. Really good.
I think they've started well, and they've been I think they're tactically been quite smart, but obviously a huge amount of experience on board as well. And Sled up there. Sled were I think 3rd in Siebenich and 4th at the moment. A few words about them.
Yeah, they're going really well. They're the experts of the coastals at the moment. And yeah, but they've got a great team there, and Don Carey seems to lead them well. And as the boat captain looking across at them, and you see all the hierarchy and sailors all washing the boat down and checking it all out. It's really good to see. So it tends to a lot of the other boats. I'm not saying my boat, but you know, the shore crew often get left to do a lot of the hard work when they dock in, whereas Sled seems to be a very happy, close team
with a lot of experience.
Yeah,
And Ray Davis on board this season, coming straight from winning the Cup. He's a character in himself, but he's pretty clear in what he wants in terms of tactics, isn't he?
Absolutely, and he's also good on the hose as well. It's good to see. He's a great guy.
Yeah. Who else then? What do Quantum have to do to get themselves back up the table? And maybe a few words about Azura. Azura really, I mean, Azura on a couple of days ago, they had a pretty poor second day, or a 10th and a 9th, and they're lying in 9th. You know, they are the 2017 52 Super Series champions, and of course, to add insult to injury, they came ashore and their team was beaten by Croatia in the World Cup. I mean, there's a team that need a good day.
I think everybody, you know, was saying too earlier, it's feeling this pressure, isn't it? And if you don't think you're going that well and you don't think it's your moment, you know, you can doubly guess yourself back into the back of the fleet a bit. It's all so tight out there. You know, a couple of wrong moves. Quantum did so well sailing himself back in with a broken bowsprit, and obviously plenty of confidence. It is about confidence. So.
Yeah, I mean, Azura and Santi Lang coming on as a tactician. I mean, a hugely experienced, very, very successful in his own right, but he says he feels the pressure, and he puts himself under as much pressure from himself. He's used to performing at the very top level, and I think he's a little bit disappointed in himself so far. He only says he goes out to do better every day, and as Guillermo Parada, I think, notably said to us when they won last season, he said, "Glory never lasts forever." So they've got some work to do, as have indeed Quantum Racing, and Platoon furiously consistent, really. 2/5 on the first day, 2 seconds on the second day. Guy, what do they do right?
Well, they went and bought a Rollick boat like us. I think they're quite quick. We're hoping they're quick. We seem to have got it together a little bit more. We're showing good speed. They're showing good speed, but you know, they're just stepping on from last year. I think they've taken what they managed to achieve last year and stepped up.
What was your brief? I mean, your brief presumably is fairly common to what Platoon wanted. What was your brief to the Rollick office?
Well, just give us a boat that's a little bit better balanced, a little bit faster, a little bit easier, a little bit easier for the start line.
So just expand on that from last season. It took a while to get the Rollick boats going, and they weren't as easy as the.
I'd give too many secrets away if I'd say
no,
things
but
like that. But yeah, I think we probably identified that we were struggled off the start line or in close situations, and we wanted to find a boat that was slightly easier to sail. So something with a little bit better balance, or let's say better feel.
Yeah. And I mean, that's certainly Harm is hugely enthusiastic about his boat, says it's a weapon upwind, and they seem to have done quite well. They seem to be going quite well in the light stuff as well, didn't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have been very pleased with our performance for sure, and nothing wrong with the boat speed. It's just you've got to keep the boats consistent.
Anyway, I think we have Jenny Tulloch out on the water. Jenny, are you with us?
Yeah, I am with you, Andy. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Yeah, good morning.
Fabulous.
How's the weather out there? It looks fantastic.
Phenomenal day on the water. I'm sorry?
Yeah, it looks fantastic from where we're sitting.
Yes, I mean, unfortunately, we had to wait that little hour or two for the breeze to die from what was sort of the remains of the Bora yesterday, and then build from what's more a northerly, maybe even northwesterly tight sea breeze. But now we have plenty of white caps on the water. We have the boats rearing to go. I think it's going to be some excellent racing this afternoon.
So, Jenny, I say Luna Rossa leading, Platoon in second, Phoenix in third. What's your feelings? What's going to happen today when you say you've got teams like Quantum Racing and Azura in particular needing a strong day? We've only got one day of racing left after today, and if you want to get on the podium, today is going to have to be definitive.
Yeah, as you were saying earlier, it is moving day for those guys further down the line. Unfortunately, they've all lost the 2 races of yesterday because it was canceled due to the thunderstorms in the Bora, and I think that means that boats will be chomping at the bit here. I think we might see a couple over earlies in this first start just because everyone's antsy to get out and get racing. But I kind of hope, I would love to see Phoenix keep doing well. I think the fact that they're sitting in third in this regatta right now, that team is having their first chance, her first go at skippering the 52s in this series, and that they're doing so well already. She's really happy with how the team's performing, and I would love to see them take a win. And I don't know if that's actually going to happen, but I'm going to put it out there. It would be an awesome, awesome job to see them. And then, yeah, as you said, Quantum Racing a bit further down the leaderboard. Of course, they won the last regatta in Šibenik a couple weeks ago, whereas Azura's had a tough time since they lost Vasco Vascona to Luna Rossa. I think Santiago Lange, and we spoke about this a lot at the last regatta, but he's been subbing in very well, but it's just a difficult task, I'm sure, as a team like that, who's had such a good structure for so long, and of Italians, to then have Santi come on board with such a different attitude and personality. And yeah, he's fiery in Argentina, but he's much quieter in many ways and much different in his persona in many ways than Vasco. So I think I'm not sure that we'll see them as far up the leaderboard as we know they would like to be. At the current moment, we've just got Quantum Racing giving us a little flyby. Doug DeVos looks really fired up as well. You guys spoke earlier about their little bowsprit prod incident the other day, but I think they're going to rebound from that.
Absolutely, and as we were talking earlier on about Dean Barker as strategist, just expand a little bit more about his role then.
Dean and Terry have had a long-term relationship. If we think back to Team New Zealand a couple cups ago, they raced together, of course, in a different, kind of the opposite here with Terry calling the tactics for Dean, whereas here, Dean's the one looking up the race course, and he mentioned it yesterday. He explained Terry is a bit more head in the boat now that Doug is driving instead of Dean driving. Terry just assists Doug as well as looking around tactically. So for Dean to be that third set of eyes, to really be eyes open up the race course, and that's the role of the strategist always. But that's particularly helpful with Dean and Terry's relationship here. He's able to look up the course, look around, decide whether the left is going to pay early like earlier this week and the right late, or maybe not because the breeze has been a little bit different today. And then he kind of feeds that input to Terry. Terry could take a quick glance up and around and see if he agrees or disagrees or how that might change the tactics he's already thinking, already putting in play. And then he gets to tell Doug ultimately what to do. And I think they've got a really good relationship there. It sounds like everyone's saying Dean slotted in really nicely with this team. We know that the Dean-Terry relationship goes back a while, so I feel like that was quite easy for them to get back into the rhythm, and it worked well last regatta, as we saw with him taking a win.
Absolutely, and Dean, of course, is hugely respected anyway, and I don't think, and he's not the kind of person who'd come in and cause any kind of friction. He would just slot in nicely and quietly, and seems to have done a good job so far. But risk-reward, talk to me about risk-reward today for Quantum in particular. You know, Terry Hutchison's fond of saying that every race counts. It's a marathon, not a sprint. It's about where you are on the last day of the season. So what are their priorities today?
You know, I think everyone's priorities this early in the season, and Quantum particularly, when their eye is on the prize, when their eye is on winning the overall season, as well as for them, you know, they've got the secondary goal of making sure that their America's Cup, American Magic team starts to understand how to sail together with each other quite well. But I think in terms of the long-term season here with the 52 Super Series, it's just not putting too many big scores on the board. And unfortunately for Quantum, they've already put about a couple of big scores on the board the other day when they broke their bowsprit. I mean, they were happy actually moving back through the race course and through the fleet a little bit more than Terry said he expected. But that's kind of typical of Terry. He's always, even if they have a good day, he's always hard on themselves a little bit. And if they have a great day, like, you know, that was a bad day, but they then had a great race to come back from it, he's still going to kind of sound surprised about how they did. So I think they're just trying to keep the points minimal, keep the season in their thoughts, and all the teams ultimately are trying to do that. Azura would love to as well, because they're always fighting for those top places on the podium, and Platoon, of course, as well, having gotten second in the season last year. They had a great day 2 days ago with 2 second places, so they're probably really fired up to keep their points minimal.
And Jenny, at the moment we're just looking at some images of Onda. Onda, I think, were the surprise package in Šibenik, and here they're lying in, I think, 9th, or sorry, they're in 11th here at the moment. You know, not the kind of regatta they hope to have after Šibenik.
Yeah, you know, in Šibenik they were tied for 4th place. I mean, they were tied with Azura. Unfortunately, they lost the tiebreak. But for such a brand new team, new to the 52 Super Series, new to each other, they're almost entirely Brazilians. I think maybe there's one Argentinian on board, but the rest are Brazilian. They've put together an amazing team of Brazilian Olympians, and their tactician, Robert Scheid, obviously a 5-time Olympic medalist. Edward de Souza, the owner and driver himself, an Olympian. They've got massive amounts of talent on board. Marco Grail, who's Torben Grail's son, who went to the Rio Olympics as well in the 49er. But to be able to pull a team together that quickly, who don't have experience in the boat and don't have experience sailing together, and then to come out and get a 5th in their first regatta, I think, you know, we heard from Edward de Souza himself, the owner, the final day. He said, I told these guys and he meant these guys, he meant his team. I told these guys just getting to compete in this fleet against these competitors is a trophy itself, and I never thought we would get to do as well as we're doing. And the fact that they finished 5th was, well, they were so pleased. So I think, unfortunately for them, this regatta has gone a bit more the way that he was expecting the first regatta to go, but the points are very close. You're saying they're lying 11th in 35 points, but up to 8th is only 30 points. So anyone could have a bad race, and they could easily be back in the mix. And I think that, you know, they're having a great time. They watched the Brazilians race in the play in the World Cup last night. And I think, yeah, as we said, that fifth was way out of the box, and maybe it was beginner's luck last regatta, but we definitely should see them firing hard as well.
How's the conditions looking? It looks still quite light. Are we expecting a start soon?
You know, it's been very up and down. So the breeze is phasing today. It comes in with really good white caps for about 10 to 15 minutes, and it dies for another period of 10 to 15 minutes. That would be fine. The problem is every time it phases, it seems to shift a little bit. So our postponement for the last hour was just due to it shifting. But I think recently it's settled a bit more towards the northwest, and the most current delay is just because the race committee anchor is dragging. So we should be getting off a start very, very soon. I think we're hearing that they're in place with the anchor. So as long as the anchor holds, then we'll see the postponement flag come down shortly. And you can see some of the teams, I'm not sure if you guys can see, but some of the teams have their their strategists up the rig, just getting some last minute looks at the race course in front of us. Platoon is definitely doing that just in front of them. Luna Rossa as well as Phoenix got guys up the rig. So I think it's good timing for them to go, okay, well, if postponement's not down yet, we got an extra 2 minutes to just take a final look at this race course from Eagle Eye view.
Indeed, what are your thoughts on the breeze and the geography of the race course?
Say again, Andy?
I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on the geography and the wind on the race course. What would be your strategy?
You know, I think earlier in the week, and much like Šibenik when it was this sea breeze, the left side would often pay early, and then the right side geographically at the top mark was an advantage. And earlier this week, that was apparently what was working on the race course. Left early on, trying to cross the fleet towards the middle of the course, get out to the top right, final tack on the top right ley line, a bit closer to shore. Now, of course, this race course here in Zadar, we're an hour up from where we were in Šibenik. We're much closer to the shore than racing there. The geographic advantage of the right might be much stronger than it was in Šibenik, and it might be much stronger here even today. We're a bit further out than the first 2 days of racing, so we're even closer to shore. The bay sort of funnels out here on the northern part of the bay, and you can see the mountains behind the boats as well. So the mountains blocking the wind in some ways, but also shifting the wind to the right as it gets close to the shoreline. And I think we could possibly see a stronger fight for the right earlier in this race course than we've seen earlier in the week.
That's pretty much the case, I think. It's been interesting in terms of strategy off the start line, whereas I think Phoenix, for example, like to get right early and then protect the right. Sled have tended to take their chances off the pin, as you say, get that early advantage, and then mostly they've been able to get across into a strong position on the right. But it's really down to who gets off the line best a lot of the times. And you know, we've seen a couple of slightly lackluster starts from Quantum, for example. It's really, they think the second race we saw the day before yesterday, or sorry, the first race we saw the day before yesterday, they put on much more committee boat end bias, and that really did shake things up a bit. So it's let's wait and see. But we can see the breeze is built up quite nicely. We're looking at the Paprec team. You talk about expectations. Paprec had a real red letter day, or in the middle of the regatta in Šibenik, when they were second, and then they won a race, and that really changed their whole perception and their whole expectations. But unfortunately, here it's been a little bit of back down to earth with a bump. But they have been in the mix. But you know, a very strong team. They seem to be really happy to push things, Jenny.
Yeah, I mean, not only did they get that second, but they had a race win in the middle of the regatta as well, and they were so fired up. You know, it was so good to see a team that's mostly amateur who come together for fun. I mean, the majority of these teams, let's be honest, they come together for fun because these regattas are amazing. The owners are doing it because they love it. The places that we are sent to in the 52 Super Series couldn't be more spectacular. Croatia, the setting, both in Zadar earlier this week, even yesterday with the thunderstorms and the Bora was, you know, it is a really, really phenomenal place to get to be in life, and then to get to be racing in the 52s. That's awesome. But if you're a pro sailor and this is your job, it is work. And the Paprec team, in many ways, it's just great to get to see the experience of the amateurs equal that of the pros, and they celebrate on a race win like nobody else does, and they talk about the amounts of champagne they'll drink the bar out of. And I think the rest of the the rest of the fleet wanted to celebrate with them in Šibenik, and let's hope that happens here again. I mean, it's just really lovely to see the level of competition is so high this year, and to see them be able to stick in the mix just as well as the rest is really fun. Well, Platoon giving us quite a close flyby here. I'm not sure if you guys get to see that on your end as well, but yeah, they're looking very relaxed on board. In fact, Harm's not even steering himself yet, so the guys quite lined up. We've got we've got no jib up yet, so I think as we were talking about the breeze phasing earlier, some of the teams had gone with their more medium breeze jib, and then as it got light again, they've dropped it back down. At least Platoon and Allegra have done that. So I would say they're probably going to stick in the medium. It's just come back up, and we've got Whitecaps and solid breeze again coming in here, but it will keep doing that throughout the afternoon. So the question is just whether you're going to set up for the start or set up for something maybe halfway up the leg, and I think that's probably why we still have some guys in the sky on 5 of the boats right now. They all saw Luna Rossa doing it. Now everyone's up Phoenix, Luna Rossa, Azura, and Gladiator still with men up the rigs, just making sure they're going to make the right call here. And I think it's a hard call. We can see Whitecaps the whole way across the bay here, so it's not like they're necessarily going to see any better breeze one side or the other here. I think it's going to be about playing the shifts and making sure you're lined up for the shifts. And Andy, you were talking about the team's personalities, if we could call it that, earlier, but we didn't talk about Platoon yet necessarily, and I think this kind of conditions, they had a good day 2 days ago with their 2 seconds, but this kind of conditions really plays into Harm Rollerspier and into JK's personality of racing, if you want to say that. They kind of like to start in the middle of the line and play the shifts and play the fleet and just constantly chip away at it and move forward through the fleet. And a day like this and conditions like this could be another perfect day for them.
I kind of suspect that's the case, Jenny, and I think one of the overlooked talents on board the Platoon is always Jordi Calafat. Jordi Calafat's the eyes and ears in terms of the strategy and what the breeze is doing, and I think he's always got a good handle on that and feeds into JK. JK interprets it and picks the tactics. But yeah, they've been going quite quick. I mean, noticeably in that lighter breeze on that marathon coastal race, they just kept chipping away, and they were visibly fast in the light breeze, which I think you probably wouldn't have expected before, Guy, in the Vrolic boats, perhaps in that 5 to 6 knots.
No, we've definitely made some good improvements in that area, and I think as well, sailing with John Kostecki in the past, he's very good at reading those shifts, and not just the shift that's coming to him, but he's also thinking about the next one and the next one after that. Real talent for it, and especially as you look up wind there today, and I guess top mark's going to be off the shore, very shifty as you get into the top mark, and sort of making sure you're on the right line as to what is going to come to you rather than what you've got right now is probably going to play a big part of it.
And what else can you say about John Kostecki, having sailed with him then?
Oh, well, yeah.
I mean, he's appears very focused and very methodical, never pushes the risk too far.
No, yeah, just very good all-round sailor and good at keeping the team all focused in on it. On the job to be done.
I think he's been a good influence on Harm as well. Harm was, shall we say, maybe a couple of years ago, quite highly stressed. Now he seems to have learned to relax and just rely on their speed and on the team a bit more.
Definitely a worthwhile signing, I think, for him. Yep. Fit into the team well.
We won't talk about the signing on fees, will we? Jenny.
I think you can just see Jordy up the rig now on Platoon. As you guys said his name, he was getting lifted up halfway along. He's only going to the first spreader. Maybe he's got some height issues, or maybe he can just see easily, as you said, he already knows. Yeah, he already knows. And now he's down. He's over it. All right, that's all he needed. So maybe it was just a check-in with the original game plan that he'd already made in his mind, whereas the other guy's still on Phoenix and still on Gladiator, hanging out up at the second or third spreader up the mast. But Jordy just did a quick little check-in, see what he liked what he saw, and got back down instantly. But I think you guys are right, especially I think Platoon on the downwind are able to not only play the shift but also keep their breeze clear in a way that maybe the other teams aren't. The other teams often seem to be playing just for clear breeze and a longer ley line and perhaps do a one jibe and in. And Platoon sometimes has a couple jibes through the middle where they're capable of moving through the pack in a way that we don't see the rest of the boats, staying out of the breeze and also playing little bits of shifts. And I think it's just, it's a testament to a really quality team to be able to have great trimming like that. They're fast on downwind, and clearly, obviously, maybe something in the boat design, but they're doing it all the way throughout the course. They're just chipping away at the rest of the pack if they're ever behind, and often they happen to start a little bit behind, so it's good for them to have those wheels.
And Jenny, you were talking about Tina Plattner then winning her first race in the 52 Super Series the last time we raced her. She won race 3, first regatta, and obviously she's going to be feeling a little bit of strain today, lying in third place, but you wouldn't want anyone else sitting beside you than Ed Baird on that circumstance.
You know, I think when you talk about legends of the sport, he is one of those legends of the sport, and I think he's also a dad. He's got such a calm demeanor. I've seen him coach Opti kids before in his yacht club in Florida, and I think in terms of having all the right personality traits to be the person sitting next to you when you're wanting to win a race or a regatta, he's you couldn't ask for better than Ed Baird. So no, I think he's got a pretty phenomenal team and a pretty phenomenal tactician in Ed, and it's nice to see him kind of move through the fleet as well. We saw him on Quantum, then on Gladiator last year, and now here on Phoenix. So he's definitely got his awareness of how the 52s work and how they sail, but also how different boats set up and how different teams work. And I think his America's Cup experience going back for ages, you know, he's just capable of leading a team and leading a crew and talking to an owner and doing all of those things simultaneously while keeping a calm and cool demeanor. And I think that's a relatively difficult task. And I don't know that we can say that about all the tacticians. And it doesn't mean that being fiery isn't a good thing. There's definitely some where the fieriness is to their advantage. I can think of an Italian and an American who get pretty pumped up sometimes. But but for Ed, his calm, cool, and collectedness, especially when you're a first timer to driving in a boat like this, I think that's for sure a plus.
And it was nice the other day, we talked to Tina, as we had to do really under the circumstances, about being the first female driver, the first female helm in the 52 Super Series history. And she really played it down. She said she hadn't even thought about it. It's just what she was here to do. And she really just wants to come and learn and get better.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think my dad's probably listening to this now, but Dad, if you have a 52 hidden in the garage, I would love to drive it as well. For sure, I don't think it's anything about being a female out there when you're racing. You know, it doesn't matter. It's not something that goes through your head or something you think about. And for her, it's just trying to get used to the boats and to do everything that a good driver should do. And the fact that she's able to have this opportunity and have such a great team is amazing. But yeah, she's totally right. It's not something that she wants to highlight, because for her, it's just what she was born in and the way that it is. And yet, I think the whole being a new driver in and of itself is pretty awesome about that and how well they're doing, you know. And I think Edward D'Souza, as we said, an Olympian himself, is a new driver to this class, but he at least has the last regatta and some training before that, and she'd done some training, I think some two-boat training maybe, down in they have earlier in the year.
They have the previous Phoenix, which was in fact Edward D'Souza Ramos's original boat. They have that boat which Tina mostly has been sailing, and which the family raced last year in the Copa del Rey, and then they built this new boat, new generation boat. So they had a period of, I think, about 10 days in Palma training with the two boats together, and I think that's helped them a bit, Guy.
Yeah, absolutely. It's worth mentioning that it is a sister ship to Prada as well. They both came out of the same mould. You know, Prada going well there, and you know, going back to what you're saying about Ed Baird, I think he's also, you know, he's not just good at talking to the team. He's very good about talking to the owner driver, and sometimes you need to explain things slightly differently to the two different departments. And he, you know, he's had great success there with Tony Langley at the end of last year.
He did, and I think that, you know, that's one of the sad things in a way about this season. Obviously, Tony was set up to sail with BAR, and that for whatever reason that we all know the changes with that team, then unfortunately Tony's and the Gladiator team were a byproduct of that. They were a casualty of that, if you like, and so they've had to pick themselves up and change their strategy. We've talked with Tony a few times over the course of the first couple of regattas, and he's really put his emphasis now on bringing a young team on, and they had a little bit of success the other day, didn't they?
Yeah, they're doing a lot of sailing, a lot of practice.
Oh, my goodness,
a lot of time on the water, incredible. You know, they're out of here and into Newport, I think, for regattas back to back, and
they've done 3 regattas back to back in Newport, and then they come straight here. So you know, if you're a young sailor and you're on that program, you're doing a lot of sailing.
And it's good to see Fergal there doing a great job in the navigating as well.
Yeah. Although I think he thought it was quite easy after day one, and then or the last time we sailed 2 days ago, it was say down to earth with a bit of a bump.
Well, maybe they started listening to him a bit more.
Exactly. That's terrible. But I mean, the thing about Fergal is we forget he is pretty young. He's certainly a talent for the future.
Yeah, good cows guy, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're looking. I think we're on with Luna Rossa. What will they be talking about just now, Guy?
Well, yeah, I guess they're trying to make that jib decision. Did you see Provetz go past you, both jibs on the deck? They seem to have made that call. You know, that's trying to make the call as late as possible, starting to look at the upwind tactics and where they want to be on the start line.
So they have a change on board Luna Rossa for this regatta. They have Matteo Platzi on board as navigator, a little bit more of a veteran compared with Francesco Mongelli. Francesco's, I think he's recuperating today. He's been unable to sail. He's got a cut on his leg, which has become infected, I believe. And so he's been told that he's not allowed to go on the race boat. But Matteo Platzi, clearly a pretty experienced guy and doing quite well.
Seems to be a bit of that around. Our navigator Nacho's got a Passuto at the moment.
He had a slightly different situation. They did a very large Russian stood on it.
I believe so, yeah.
But you know, the weather forecasts here, are they pretty accurate, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's difficult. I think we get two versions from the same forecaster each day. To sort of, if it goes like this, we'll have this. So everybody's hedging their bets a bit. You know, you're going to have what you have. I seem to have done it quite well. Could we have sailed yesterday afternoon? Did the breeze really kick in? It's really difficult to say, isn't it? Whether they should have come out. Same here. You know, probably done well bringing the boats out later on. We've got the proper decent breeze of the day now. Hopefully not too shifty, and we get a couple of good races in.
I mean, that was a suggestion. We should have been out at 7 this morning.
Yeah,
25 knots. But there's also a risk in that situation where it's still breezy. You don't really know what's going to happen. But
yeah, where all the breeze, drops right out in the middle of the race.
That was the forecast. And what about, I'm going to ask both of you what you think of the coastal races then, because it's always a contentious issue. There are certain parties love them and think it's an integral part of the circuit. And I'm sure if you asked Terry Hutchison once again, the day before yesterday, whether he liked coastal races, you'd have got a fairly conclusive answer.
Well, yeah, I guess all the photographers like them, don't they?
It depends where you are.
For the venue. But I guess it brings a certain, slightly different style of sailing. They can be very boring if they turn into the procession that they often do. But when they're not a procession, it's a great race.
Jenny, what are your thoughts on the coastal races?
Don't know whether she's there.
Jenny?
No, I'm there. I think as you guys said, it can be a parade sometimes. It's a long race, and if someone gets a long way ahead, then that is what it is. But it can also be really stunning and super beautiful. And I think we heard Harm Muller-Spear at the last regatta say, when it is like this, the coastal race is perfect.
Yeah, I mean, Seabanix was good, wasn't it?
Really, really stunning. And I think you could never do that in a Windward-Leeward, and yet you don't necessarily want to. If you're thinking about die-hard racing, you're thinking about Windward-Leeward. But if you are kind of here to experience and live a place and a culture that you're in, then something like Through the Islands Out and Around, when it's a coastal race, it almost can't be beaten. So I know it's a bit controversial, and I don't think I'm going to pin my hat on either side of it. That's for sure.
So you're not going to be taking over from Maria as race officer then?
Yeah, I don't envy her job ever. I definitely don't envy her job on a coastal race day, but I don't think I envy it even on a day like today. It's hard when you can see whitecaps and you can see breeze, and yet you have to know that because it's shifty, it's not going to be the best race until it's perfect. And I think she does a really good job at minimizing the patience or the impatience levels and maximizing the really good quality racing. And that's a hard task for sure.
That's a hard task, but I mean, I think that she gets the balance right. It's a very collaborative process. She speaks to all the navigators, listens to their opinions and their expertise in terms of the weather, and then makes her own decisions.
Yeah, and I think the sailors massively respect her, and I think that is always really important with a PRO, and maybe it doesn't always happen at every regatta around the world, but I think with Maria particularly and in this class, there's a massive amount of respect for the job that she does. The task that she has is quite hard, and they seem to think she definitely more often does the right thing than the wrong thing. So I think that's kind of all you can ask for as a PRO. But again, yeah, I don't envy being in her shoes in any way.
So Jenny, I think we're inside the start sequence by the looks of things.
We are, yeah. I don't know if it was the race committee flags that gave it away for you guys, or the fact that all the boats are all fired up here. Only one boat has yet to pull their jib up. It's Quantum, and we can just see them pulling up their jib now. So I think inside of 4 minutes to go, and it is going to be interesting here. We've got 7, actually maybe 9 of the boats towards the pin end, just tacking back, and nobody really hanging out towards the boat end of the line. And you guys know that's an early indication that we might see a good fight for the pin here. So maybe everything I said earlier about the right side possibly playing earlier than it has this week, maybe that was all wrong. Maybe they saw something up there in the sky on the left that that I didn't see, or they just went with, here's the pattern of what Zadar's been like, and let's stick with it until we know better. But for sure, it looks like we're going to see a fight down here at the pin end. We've got almost all 11 teams very, very close to the pin.
Only a variation in that seems to be Onda, who are staying closer to the committee boat end of the line. Guy, any thoughts?
Well, I guess it's been tough while they've been setting themselves up here, isn't it? They haven't had much of an opportunity to do a couple of practice starts and go up the course, with the breeze being so light and making the decisions. So I think they're just tossing the coin a little bit at the moment and trying to look up the course and see where it goes.
It's all about the risk off the start line, isn't it? Just try and find yourself a slot and
clear air.
Hit the line and with clear air if possible. So let's see how this develops. Onda, as I said, looking more towards the committee boat end of the line. Sled actually more towards the right so far, maybe sliding around the back of the fleet. Luna Rossa have started off the pin end 2 or 3 times, I think.
Yeah, well, what's that? 1:30 to go.
Platoon setting up more towards the right end of the line. Jenny?
Yeah, we've got Quantum just driving at the bottom of the line here. We've got Sled is going to tack up behind them here at the pin end. Quantum following Luna Rossa. No surprise there. Luna Rossa being the regatta leaders, carrying and putting them into pressure a little bit. Platoon's more center of the line, middle of the pack, like we had expected. Paprec up at the far end, and again, a good spot for them to be the weather of the hustle that's going to be down here. 48 seconds to go. But all 11 boats definitely in the bottom third, bottom quarter of this line. So we should expect to see some pushing for the line, possibly some over-earlies, possibly some boats bailing out at the pin here. In fact, I'm not sure if Quantum Racing or Prada will easily... No, they might make this pin if they go lapping from now, but 30 seconds to go, and everyone looks really, really close already. And we talked about that earlier, that they're going to be so antsy for this start that they might pull the trigger too soon. And I'm not sure if that'll be here at the pin, but you can see Quantum going hard, low, trying to shut the door on Sled, 15 seconds. Sled just taking their stern, almost losing their own prod at the time. And now Quantum coming up hard, 10 seconds to go. Just the best way that they could to burn the speed. But 5 seconds, 4, 3, 2, 1, gun. And I think probably we're going to see a general recall there. That is a ridiculously very close fleet to the line. And I think we'll have to wait for Maria's final call on that, whether everyone was over, whether everyone was clear, or whether she could actually pick out who was individual recall. But to my eye, it looks really, really, really close to call. If not, then Quantum Racing is off to the races here at the pin end of the line. Just above them, they are catching off Sled very well. Above that, it's Luna Rossa equally doing well to Quantum, holding their course. But yes, there's Piero Maria saying general recall. So I think you guys, it was just the tiniest bit too close too soon, but almost 5 or 6 fouls were over the line at the gun. So Maria's going for a general, and we've just seen the first boat head back in that platoon.
So is that pretty much circumstantial, or do you think it's kind of willful, let's have a practice start and then go back?
Sorry, say again, Andy?
I'm saying, how is that just circumstantial because everyone's pushing it, or do you think there's an element of let's have a little bit of a look up the race course and then do it for real?
You know, it was hard to hear that question, but I think it was it was easy to see that one coming in many ways.
Yeah.
That general recall was going to happen. You could kind of see, like we were talking about, all the boats being corralled down at the pen and nipping at the heels of everyone else, and all basically stamping the fact that they were going to fight hard for the pen. And to be honest, I think Doug DeVos and Quantum did a really good job of recognizing that they were early, doing a huge down and a huge up build, having to make sled force them to their weather side, but it was the only way they were going to kill the amount of distance that they needed to kill when they were so early line at 30 seconds, and they still probably messed it up by just about 2 seconds. And above them, everyone else just tried to kill by slowing really hard, and yet they were still too early, too soon. So I think, yeah, it's a little bit because of the course setup, a little bit because everyone wanted the left so hard. I still don't know if we'll actually see that the left is as advantageous as they seem to think it is. It does kind of look like, in many ways, you could have a much longer starboard tack out here in the middle of the channel. So yeah, you'll have clear air for longer, and if maybe it's a tiny bit lighter on shore because of these mountains blocking the wind, then you don't want to go to shore too soon. So I think we could see the same thing again, but I think probably all of the fleet is now aware that they were stacked up too early, too soon, and I think they'll be a little bit more conservative in the next start. We should see a race get away. Indeed, and just a chance then for the boats to sail a little bit further upwind on that first beat, Guy. Yeah, good for me there. The Provetza seem to be going quite well. They've got themselves a little hole on the start line for themselves. I think Phoenix and Patrick seem to have jumped the line a little bit too quickly, and whether Maria couldn't then see the other end of the line and it all being so tight that she just automatically called it. Certainly Platoon weren't quite as good. We're one of the first to bail out. But it just gives the helms a chance to get a real feel for the first beat, doesn't it? Yeah, get the boats to line up against each other and start to see what's going on. Yeah, notice now the jibs are coming down on a couple of the boats that they're not too sure about their jib choice, which is they would have been able to ascertain and look at the other boats on that short beat they had. So probably going to see a couple of changes. Broadly speaking, what's the kind of crossovers? I haven't sailed the boats much this year to know what it's at. But we'll in rough terms, yeah. Yeah, 8 knots. I don't know. I'm guessing. I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, Guy, you're saying we're not going to have Guy with us tomorrow because he has to go sailing on the boat, because I believe that the Turkish. There's a general election on. There's a general election on in Turkey, and the Turkish sailors all have to return to Turkey and vote. So. I get to put my sailing gloves back on and jump in the pit. Exactly. So it will be quite exciting. You're not allowed to win, though. I hope so. Yeah. So that should be a bit of fun for you, anyway. Yeah, I don't know whether I've been more nervous about going out there tomorrow or talking on the TV today. But how's the mood on the Provetza camp generally? Yeah, it's good. I mean, it's been very tough. Obviously, that first Regatta in Šibenik, we didn't do so well. We had not necessarily breakdowns. We had issues with the way we'd set the boat up and the things we were trying to do. So big scramble after the event to make quite a lot of changes. I think I was up to about 14, 15 boat builders prior to the week starting here. Oh my goodness. But we seem to have got it right, and it's been really good to see the boat start to go well. And all this week they've said, well, Guy, we have nothing wrong with the boat, we're happy about the speed, but sorry, we dropped the spinnaker in the water. Or what happened there? That was just a it was just unfortunately error going into the top mark, just light air, and I think we led with the tack and the halyard, and it all just dropped into the water rather than getting sucked into the boat. Just one of those things. But whether it's again, we've been working on the pit. That's one of the areas we've been changing. Try and make it a little bit easier. Clearly you need a bit more time on the water with it. Which is the week there, so that's makes me a bit nervous. The drop systems and the hoisting systems are so quick now that when it goes wrong, it goes really wrong. Yeah, are incredibly quick. You're relying on one of the things a lot of boats, I think pretty much all of them have like a reeler which you reel in the lazy
sheet or the lazy halyard, and if that's not spinning out quick enough, then and it chokes itself up, then you try and rip that through the side of the boat, or then you have to get the knife out, and it all gets a bit expensive and a bit shouty very quickly. Not that we did that, but it's, you know, with a halyard coming down so quickly, what happens is the reeler spins around so fast that if the halyard man then checks the halyard, the reeler continues to spin, and you get all this loose,
everything else goes into it.
Yeah, loose line chucked out down below. So you're trying to make the reeler go as fast as possible, but you're also trying to break it as much as you can. So you're sort of counteracting what you're trying to achieve, and it's quite difficult to sort of set the boat up with short team. Yeah, well, I think probably, yeah. You know, as my short team and I watched that first mark landing when they dropped the spinnaker in the water, you know, our immediate thoughts is, oh my God, what's broken down? What's gone wrong? What have we done wrong? You know, I think everybody here feels the pressure, not just the people on the water. No, it was just something that, you know, it happens occasionally. The guys go trawling. Yeah. We now know that Provetsa's not a very good trawler, and we don't want to be doing that one again.
Exactly. And in the meantime, you had the boat back to Turkey for something like 1,500 miles or something.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, a bit of a long trip. Wanted to go down there and register it and get the Turkish stamp on it. Yeah, so interesting trip. Good fun, but would have rather had a little bit of time off or more maintenance time for sure. But nice to go down to Bodrum and see Bodrum. What a lovely place.
Lovely, yeah.
We should do a TP52 regatta there someday.
It's not beyond the realms of possibility, I'm quite sure.
Yeah. Really lovely.
And good breeze down there as well.
Yeah, we had a bit of breeze going down there as well. It took about 27 knots, but a nice beam reach as we went from Athens across. And then we had a little bit of a hairy night on the way home when we had a thunderstorm sort of circling around us, anywhere between sort of 18 and 27. So it was a bit exciting for us, and not really the boats to be out in at night without any bunks or you know, very much set up for inshore racing.
And there's 4 of you.
Yeah, just 4 of us, yeah.
Nice coming back in through the islands to get here.
Oh yeah, really beautiful. We had to make a landfall as quickly as possible in order to clear customs, in order to get the documents stamped, and we went into Viz, absolutely beautiful island, really, really sensational. And the guys couldn't have been nicer when we went alongside. And great in a way to put a racing boat like that amongst all these cruising boats. Yeah. People like looking at us like, you could hear the comments like,
turning up the supermarket car park with an F1 car.
Yeah, those guys are taking it really full on.
But I mean, I have to say, you know, we've got a minute. The reception here in Croatia has been absolutely fantastic. You know, there's been such enthusiasm to bring this regatta here. A bit of fairly significant investment from the tourism authorities and the marina companies themselves, and they really welcomed us with open arms. It couldn't be better from that point of view.
Yeah, the marina side of things has been great. From the shore side of things, you know, we've all had so much to do, masts in, masts out, boats up, down, and various rating things going on, and they couldn't be more helpful and more kind, and you know, easy to get things sorted out.
I mean, we were talking about it this morning, and in some ways it's a little bit similar to Mahon, where they don't get that many Grand Prix events like this, and so they really love it, and they go the extra mile to make sure everything's perfect.
Yeah, I feel that with events. When you take an event to, say, a town or a city where they're not used to having sporting events, they love it. You know, you go to Miami, they don't necessarily.
Exactly.
We're a very small fish.
Or you know, with the greatest of respect, Porto Cervo. You know, they have events every week, and this week it's the 52s. Next week it's the Maxis. The week after it's the J70s, J80s. You know, you're one in a long line of events, and here it's a big news. Slightly overshadowed by the World Cup, but
yeah, or maybe today with the Volvo going on at the moment.
Yeah. So we have a new time for the start, Jenny.
You know, it sounds like the start will be in about 5. Well, the warning signal will be in about 5 more minutes here, 2:55 our time. We can just see that they're moving the pin into the line, both a little bit further away and possibly a little bit further downwind. So. Definitely all the boats were fighting for it, whether it was just because the pin was really favored or the left side of the course was really favored. Either way, it seems like Maria's going to give them a little bit of a disadvantage there and try to even out the line some so we can see them spread up the line. The fact that they're moving it further away is kind of funny. I mean, there was already plenty of distance for the boats to use between themselves and the boat, and they just weren't using it. They were all stacked up at the bottom of the pen, but we'll see this pen reset in the next 4 minutes, and she plans to go at 2:55 with another warning, and I think... Yeah, as you guys were saying, a couple of the teams have put their jibs completely fully away, not just put down to give it some break for 5 minutes, but have fully bagged it and have brought a second jib up. So it is just another light air phase here, and you have to, as we discussed earlier, you have to just decide what the right phase is to start it and which jib is to start when they're in this crossover breeze strength. It's a really difficult task, I think, especially you don't want to be too overpowered at the beginning because you can't then really foot off and accelerate and then bring your height at the same time, but you also don't want to be underpowered there or in the middle of the leg. So it'll be interesting to see what they all go with here, but we've got another 4 minutes before they'll have to make those final calls.
Yeah, I think it's also, it's very tricky in these conditions because you want to have the boat as light as possible, and we see the chase boats all moving around there. Those are the ones that got the sails on it. Some of the boats maybe even choosing to go with only one jib, and some of the light ones. Now, I'd say today they're probably on two, but is that the light and the medium, or the medium and the heavy? And a lot of decisions being made to not just to keep the horsepower on board, but also to keep it as light as possible.
Just hope that you make the right decision for not only the first upwind, but the following upwinds as well. That's a tougher task.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So the pen boat has just dropped their anchor, but we can hear Maria saying another 2 minutes of delay till the warning. So I think still we'll be going in the next 10 minutes, but it's going to be a tiny bit further away. She's probably just going to make sure that all the anchors are holding, both for the pen boat and the race committee again, before actually taking this general recall flag down. As we said earlier, tough task. The impatience of the teams, especially having had one start under their belts, to not actually get a race yet, wanting to go again. But I think, as we all know as sailors, that kind of gets the nerves out, that first general recall. Everyone's so antsy for that first start, and then you get a general recall, the nerves are sort of gone in a way, and everyone comes down a little bit, and we should see there's still going to be massive aggressiveness about a good start, the next start. But in some ways, it's like the butterflies just got let out and released a little bit. It's like opening the gas valve in a fizzy drink, and so here it'll be just the tiniest bit less fizz, less aggro, and I think it's the right call to make sure that the starting line is set up perfectly and properly. But the sailors, it's a bit frustrating to not actually be racing yet.
Yeah, and the frustration maybe of, will we get the second race in as well today? I think, everybody wants to do as much sailing as possible here. Potential of getting as many points as you can, or as loose. And
in general, I think we sailed 8 races, wasn't it, in Šibenik?
Yeah, it's a shame the week before that we were here before, they had really good breeze all day long. And we thought, wow, this is going to be a great venue. We're going to love this flat water and plenty of breeze. And fortunately, as often happens.
You should have been here last week.
Yeah.
How many times have you heard that in your life?
Yeah. Yeah.
So something else a little bit different here. Tell me about your domestic setup here because we don't have big hotels like we did, for example, in Šibenik. What was the setup with the Preveza team? Do you all go your own separate ways each evening, or do you all eat together, or?
No, we've managed to find 2 fairly large, nice hotels up in Zadar, which
the
guys
so you
are
stay
going
up in the town.
Yeah, but the shore team that's 20 minutes away, so the shore team's down here. We've got a couple of shore team houses and a cook who's doing all the lunches. Jill Thomas, who's come to help us out.
But it's very, very different to other venues where there's no big hotels beside the venue itself. So a lot of people staying in apartments and small restaurants and stuff. Is very different.
But there's loads of lovely small restaurants around
fantastic.
to go to. You go out in the evening and you see lots of different crews all broken up and having a meal together.
Here we are on board
it's the right place to be.
On board your yacht.
Yeah. How do they look? Happy enough?
Ergen looks like he's going to Cape Horn, I think.
At least you can say that.
Not so far. But a few words about Ergen. He's a tremendous character, and he's been in this sport at this level for 30 odd years, hasn't he?
Yeah, a huge supporter of it. Yeah, back in the late 80s, 88, I think was that first started out. IOL sailing and Admiral's Cup. I don't know, 89 or maybe 91 was his first Admiral's Cup, but yeah, very keen to get out there and fly the flag and get the Turkish guys involved.
And this is Preveza what number?
This is 10.
10. Yeah.
We stayed 9 because we like the bow number. He likes the idea of being boat number 9, but we should actually be boat number 4, having finished last year.
Absolutely.
So, but anyway, 9 it is. Yeah, but he just seems to be getting, get better and better and more enthusiastic. We've, raising the game every time. But there's still quite a lot of his original sailors amongst our team, ashore and on the boat.
And how much did that regatta win mean last season in terms of motivation for this year?
Oh, absolutely massive! I think he said if we win there, then we're definitely on for the next season. We'll be having a new boat. So
there you have it.
Yeah, I think it really helped make that. But maybe he thought the boat was quick enough, and we didn't need a new boat.
I haven't caught them in the shot.
Was that the warning signal, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just a quick word about our new technical partners this season who are supporting us particularly for the our live broadcast. We have King Marine, Quantum Sails, North Sails, Southern Spars, Botin Partners and Longitude Giro all joining us this season as technical partners. So our grateful thanks to them. All of them, of course, top-level suppliers and to the TP52 teams in different ways. Boat builders, spar builders and designers who I think have all benefited and had an extremely busy winter, each one of them, didn't they?
Yeah, I think definitely, yeah, especially those Southern Spars boys.
So they were looking at the some of our guests from XS Energy, who are our energy drink supporters, an Amway brand. And these are guests from all over Europe, Amway entrepreneurs. And they're with our host with the most, which is Tiny. Do you know him, do you?
No, I don't know.
No, he's a very famous Kiwi sailor, used to sail with Hamish Pepper, has joined us. So Maria's just updating you, Jenny. What's she saying?
Andy, difficult to hear your question, but we've got 3 minutes to go, and
Right.
it's looking very much like the last start just set up. So not quite the entire fleet down here, but 9 boats sort of in this rally packed down at the pin end, and I think we could see a very similar start, hopefully not a general recall, but a very similar start of everyone pushing down the line, fighting hard for this pin end. We just kind of, on our own boat, had to get out of the way of Platoon, who's really doing some circles down the pin, trying to show that they wanted this part. But we know Platoon sort of likes to be up in the middle of the line a bit more, and we saw them not have a great start last time. They went back early because they had been pushed out the back a little bit at the start line, so I think they'll be happy to have a better start, accelerate sooner. But perhaps they were the only boat not early last time. Maybe they had their instruments perfectly on, whereas everyone else was jumping the gun just a touch. But here we have 2 minutes 15 seconds to go. It's Gladiator who's furthest down the line, sled even past them. They're all just tacking up here, and it's just this little shark circling moment here where everyone's trying to establish where the right spot is to then fight forward from towards the start line. And I think we're going to see them soon establish that position. And, well, I don't know, with a minute 50 seconds to go, we might still see one more tiny little circle back and forth between a couple of the teams. But this looks in many ways like the final port tack approach to then find where your position is on starboard. And I think possibly Quantum Racing is going to be moving up the line a bit more than their previous start. They were so close to the pin, and as we said earlier, they had to do such big maneuvers right in the final 20 seconds that maybe it made Doug a little bit uncomfortable, and they've gone for a little bit more of a conservative setup here. 1 minute, 25 seconds to go, and almost everyone's still on port tack, but the beginning to set up here on starboard is Azura coming down the line, behind them Paprec, behind them Platoon. I think we'll see the rest of the pack tacking over very, very soon.
Yeah, on up at the top end of the line, the boat end of the line, along with Allegri. Luna Rossa lining up again on the pin end. Vasco liked the left in a couple of starts earlier on in the week. I think alongside Azura then. Obviously training partners work together. So
exactly, they went underneath Azura's bow, and Azura then did a little double tack up to Prevetta. Prevetta now doing a tiny double tack up to Poprek, who's sort of stuck in the water above Poprek. Sled above them, Platoon. Platoon's already sails trimmed, sliding down the line going forward, whereas Quantum just bow out of everyone there is very, very eager to slow with their jib. Yeah, luffing hard with their jib because they've only got 14 seconds to go now. Platoon, as we said, trimmed in first earliest. Maybe looks a little bit soon, a little bit early. Luna Rossa, plenty of distance here on the line to get going quickly. 4 seconds to go. It's got to be a clean start. 2, 1, that's the gun. Definitely at the pin end. The pin end, it's a clear start. There might have been Platoon over early in the middle there. We'll have to hear from Maria if that happened, but a great start here for Platoon in the middle, if not, and a great start for Luna Rossa at the pin, as well as just above them, Azura, Poprek, Quantum, and then I can't see out to the right side, but it looks like Gladiator had to tack out early, so possibly not the best start for Gladiator at the boat end of the line. Do we hear any over early yet?
Not that we've heard, but Sled also having to tack out early, I think. Guy, your thoughts on the start?
Yeah, a pretty good clean start. Luna Rossa looking like they were very quick and not being affected by many people. That was a good end of the line for them. Pleased to see Prevetta seem to be sticking their nose out a little bit now. So we were worried they were
actually Quantum not too bad actually, just the weather of Platoon.
I think Prevetta hanging right now off of Azura's line, both of them about 2 boat lengths above Luna Rossa, so Azura should be able to hold just fine. Prevetta's in a little bit of a tough spot because they're just above Azura, but then to weather of them, they've got Poprek and Platoon, so it'll be a difficult situation for Peter Holmberg to hum his way through there, but it looks like, as you said, they're doing fine so far. And I think maybe they've definitely pushed Poprek out the back. They'll have to tack soon. You can see their jib trimmer heading down now towards the tack, but I'm not sure if Platoon's going to be able to hang there for very long. I think Prevetta actually doing a good job of staying high on Azura and kind of getting into Platoon's line and giving them bad air shortly. And then to the right behind, Poprek going for the tack. To the right behind Platoon, we've got Phoenix and Onda still hanging on for this side. And I don't actually see Quantum Racing, Andy, at the moment. Have they tacked off? Or are they
they're just...
Oh, I see them. They're just above Platoon.
Just to weather and just probably bow forward and no more on Platoon.
They've got a good spot there, a better spot, I think, than Platoon has.
So we're seeing on the virtual, we're seeing the most extreme right and most extreme left boat in the top 2 positions, Luna Rossa and Gladiator. Gladiator furthest out to the right, looking for the any extra pressure out on that right side, or maybe protect the right side early on. It worked for them when they won that race, and correspondingly Luna Rossa on the first day, I think Vasco started both times off the pin and did very much what they're doing just now, dragged us to the left as quickly as possible.
You know, what's interesting is Luna Rossa almost looked like they were going to go for a tack there. They sent 3 guys to lure Jimmy Spithill to the grinder, and then everyone kind of looked up, and it looked like all of a sudden they'd just gotten this tiny bit of an extra gear, and they went from maybe tacking and thinking they would not cross to actually everybody come back hiking hard, and we'll see if we can just pinch up a little bit higher. And then now they're instantly going into this height mode instead of tacking away early, and I think they're going to do well here, but it's going to be a difficult... I don't know that they'll ever be able to necessarily cross Azura and Prevetta's bows, so they might just have to wait for them to tack out. Platoon, on the other hand, has had to tack out. They weren't in the best spot, and Prevetta finally did get rid of them, but it's going to be a longer ask for Prevetta to be able to get rid of Quantum Racing. Quantum's going to put the bow down and trying to start to roll over Prevetta, and I think we'll just have to see we'll have to see the dominoes fall here once Quantum Tack. Oh, no, I'm wrong. Luna Rossa going for the tack. So they weren't waiting for the fleet. They have gone for the tack, and I think they're then going to be ducking these three boats here. So giving up a little bit of their left-hand leverage, taking the sterns of Azura, Preveza, and Quantum Racing. And I'm not sure if it was just enough of a left shift as they were eager to get onto this left lift, and they didn't care about this fight above them. But Prada definitely has gone to the tack, taking the sterns of those three boats. And it was a tiny duck, you know. It was really only about a 2-degree, a 5-degree duck. So I think if that was really badly what Vasco Voscato wanted to do to get on the other tack and on the lifted tack, then that was the right time to do it. Probably for them as well, it's just keeping in mind that these three boats aren't that far up the leaderboard right now, that the boats that they want to keep in their sights are Platoon and Phoenix, and those guys had tacks off earlier. So even though often the rivalry with Vasco Voscato is with Quantum Racing, I don't know. I'm saying that, but Vasco's pinballing himself. Yeah, just tacked back right in the middle. So just probably 3 boat lengths lost for that double tack, and not a real reason to do it. They're not getting any advantage out of it afterwards. I would call that an unforced error for that team.
Interesting, and Azura leading on the virtual, along with Gladiator. Gladiator still strong out in that right side, and I think a little bit of rotation on the out on the right, perhaps. Guy, a little bit of starboard tack lift.
Yeah, it's very equal, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's never. I'm pleased to see us doing quite well and being able to hold our lane there.
But it's interesting, historically on this course, the right has got stronger from about halfway up, so let's see if that plays out again. We're in very much the same kind of wind direction. The first couple of days were about 3:05 and 3:10. I think we started in 3:30, Jen.
Quantum tacking over there now, and Luna Rossa as well.
And Preveza going.
Yep.
Well, here the dominoes are falling out on the left-hand side. Quantum Racing, the first attack off, followed quickly by Preveza, and then finally here by Azura. And beautiful left angle, I think, in Azura. Looks really, really nice on board. And it's the team we were talking about earlier that I thought maybe wouldn't have it in them now, but I'm really happy to see them up there. I think that's great for these guys.
I think they need a good one, but
to the right-hand side.
Almost out in the ley line, aren't they? Azura looking at virtual eye there.
Yeah. They certainly seem quite powered up anyway. The Azura and the Preveza. Quantum also going quite well. But what do you think of Luna Rossa's tactics there, Guy? Hard to decipher.
Yeah. I can't criticise the great man.
No, of course not. But no criticism.
2 tacks like that, yeah, you throw it away a bit. Would he want to swap from where he is now to being just up above?
To being on Azura.
Yeah. Maybe he felt he couldn't lead the tack back because they were going to a ley line.
Yeah.
Held out to ley line, wanted to take it back into the middle. Does look like pretty good pressure though, doesn't it? And still quite even right the way across the course. Virtual Eye now having Azura in the lead.
Yeah, Jenny, we're seeing Azura getting stronger with Preveza.
Sorry, again, Andy?
I'm just saying we're seeing Azura getting stronger with Preveza on this left side.
Yeah, Azura looks to have this tiny bit of a left shift that doesn't seem to be funneling down the fleet a little bit. So I'm not sure if it's... They kind of had gone into height mode right at the end there when they were trying to get the tack across. and maybe they've just come out of it in the same trim setup that they had at the end, but it looks really nice for now, although maybe just now Provezza's getting the touch more of the lefty. Provezza also sailing, to my eye, with a bit more heel than Azura, so I'm not sure on purpose whether they're not depowering as much or whether they like the heel that much, but it looks like Azura maybe a bit higher, maybe a bit flatter, and Provezza maybe powering off more. Quantum Racing in the middle has gone sort of foot mode and has separated distance from the two of them, but in many ways that's okay. If Quantum Racing is trying to get back in touch with the fleet on the right-hand side, then they're happy to do that and to leave the other two boats to windward of them to have their own little battle.
Certainly, if anything, I think a little bit more pressure on this left side if we're looking at Azura, even relative to Quantum.
You know, I think the person who's going to feel this the most painfully is going to be Luna Rossa. I mean, thinking that they had that leftmost position, they won the pin at the start, they were in a beautiful spot on the line, down the line, having that left corner, and then kind of doing this double tack up and then a triple tack now to be underneath this fleet as they come back on port. If Azura leads at this top mark, that's just going to grate massively on the current leaders of this regatta. They had that positioning in it, and it didn't happen for them. They decided against it. But I don't know. Now that we've just caught back up to these guys, it actually looks like Provezza has pulled forward bow ahead of Azura. So I'm not sure what virtual eye is showing, but in terms of the naked eye, it looks like Provezza's maybe done better with their mode recently, and Azura's falling back to them and maybe even falling into their air a little bit.
Yeah, we're seeing that on the virtual a little bit.
Possibly looking like they're overstanding, isn't it, on virtual? Whether you can really believe that.
I think just in the terms of the general orientation of the course, I think.
Yeah.
I think what you're seeing is the boats on the far right are pretty much laying on starboard now. Anyway, yeah, Provezza just moved forward quite nicely in Azura.
Maybe that little extra heel's helping.
Yeah.
Or is it Brolic?
It's a design feature. But a virtual is certainly showing Gladiator strong on that right with Onda and Phoenix. You'd have to almost say the usual suspects out on that right side. Phoenix have quite often taken ownership of that right side from just over halfway up. So there we see Luna Rossa paying for that, tacking away from Azura and into the middle, now in 10th. Where their nearest rival would be Platoon in 5th. So we are seeing Gladiator leading on virtual, Jenny, on that right side. Phoenix still going across on port, from what we can see. Yeah, there we see Gladiator now with Allegri.
Yeah, as you said, the right side paying the latter part of the beat.
So playing out as we've seen in the previous days on this race course. And as I said, the kind of the usual suspects have identified that. In particular, Phoenix and Gladiator have profited out on that right side in the previous races. Gladiator just tacking in front of Platoon, I think, isn't it?
Yeah. I'd say it's going to be a pretty interesting mark rounding this. Everybody's fairly close together, a lot of port boats coming in.
You wouldn't want to be in the jury boat, would you?
No. Or possibly in the boat building department tonight.
But Gladiator leading in from Platoon. I mean, credit to Platoon. They've just been chipping away typically on this upwind, not pushing it too hard to one side or the other. Just looking at the approach of the first windward mark. We're in race number 5 here at the Zadar Royal Cup, the penultimate day of racing. Luna Rossa, the regatta leaders, are a little bit further down in the depths of this fleet. And at the moment, the way it looks, then Phoenix would be perhaps our regatta leaders after this race. It's all to play for, but Tony Langley's team on Gladiator look like they're going to lead round the top mark as they did in the second race of the regatta. Tony there, we can see him down to leeward, just looking over his shoulder. Likes his wheels, guy, doesn't he? Tony Langley.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he finds it easier rather to grip them. It's quite bad arthritis, I think.
That's right.
Yeah.
And Allegra round in second, and Onda third. Quantum seem to have got themselves ahead of that little pack.
Yeah, they're good at wriggling that out.
So Phoenix have lost a couple of boats on the approach there.
Yeah, and ourselves.
And Platoon
really
actually.
Around the mark.
Platoon at the back there behind Luna Rossa. Do you think something happened with the Platoon on the approach, or
just a lot of dirty air? I think.
Yeah.
I'm just watching the Preveza get spat out the back door and all that dirty air.
Dear, dear, they'll get it back. Don't worry.
Yeah, having done so well.
But you have to give credit to Quantum, who are just beside them.
Yeah, done very well.
They've done very well to come round that top mark in fourth.
Once again.
You know, I lost you guys for a little while there, Andy, but we've got to give credit as well to sort of all the guys that went right when the fleet was fighting hard to the left. I think Gladiator, Sled, and Onda sticking to their guns after having maybe had bad starts or having had the right from the start as their game plan, but for sure it seems like that worked out for those top three. I'm personally happy because we were talking about the right maybe early paying, so yay, we'll take that one. But I think, yeah, impressive, as you said, for Quantum to just be able to sneak out of that left side and be able to win from the left and slide up to fourth when the rest of the fleet, when Luna Rossa, Azura, and Platoon are way further back down the line. That's not nearly as easy to come back from 7th or 9th place than it is to come back from 4th place.
You were just saying that Platoon, second overall in the regatta standings, are down in 10th just now. They're going to have to work their magic from there.
Yeah, and I think maybe that's the harm of that sort of start in the middle and try to play the shift. If it's a race course that's not got big shift, it just has one side to your advantage, then often the two sides might win around that middle player. So what we saw here was Gladiator, Sled, and Onda from the right, and then Quantum from the left. Even I think Phoenix from the right as well. And they kind of all sailed around Platoon, who didn't have the best start in the middle, and sailed up the middle. So that's going to be a hard one. But as we said, they like to pick off the boats as they go through the race course. So if anyone can do it, Platoon can.
But certainly credit to Gladiator, to Hamish Pepper and the Aftergarden, the Gladiator getting up to lead round that top mark. They too need a good score at this stage in the regatta. Pair of 11ths the day before yesterday.
Yeah, you know, and we've spoken about this before, how Tony Langley's kind of had a bit of a rough ride here with his crew changing around a lot because of Ben Ainsley's America's Cup team and having them originally as crew members, and then just the last regatta having a couple, and now there's still a couple as well, but he's brought on some young guns who are part of the upcoming Ineos Rebels team. But to switch your team around and then to have a new tactician at the same point in time, Hamish Pepper was not sailing with him at the last regatta. I think it was Morgan Larson instead. So due credit, as you said, to Hamish, but also to Tony for kind of sticking through it while all the crew changes are going on and being able to keep a level head about it, and hopefully have a good race, especially having had a relatively tough regatta yesterday, at least 2 days ago with 2 11s. But the first day went well with a 7th and a 1st, so maybe it's just them getting back on track.
Here's hoping, yeah. I mean, I think that there's been various different options discussed for Gladiator. First, we thought they would just do the first 2 regattas of this season, but I think things looking a little bit more hopeful for the rest of the season, and certainly going out and winning races in this fleet can only be good from that point of view. But I know that they're certainly planning to do some more racing with their 52 in the States. But certainly Tony's not short of time on the helm this year, Guy, is he?
No, he's been doing plenty of it as well. I think he's keen to do Cows Week as well, and
that's
around
right.
the Island Race.
Round the Island, the whole lot.
Yeah, he likes to win that round the Island Race. I
he
think
does, doesn't he?
Twice, doesn't he? But I don't think they're coming to Cascais, so are they?
No, they're not coming to Cascais. I think that clashes with their previously established itinerary over in the States.
And then I think he races his UK boat at Cows Week as well, right?
That's right.
Yeah. He's got plenty of days on the water.
He's got plenty of days in the water and plenty of TP52s.
Maybe I'll change my mind. Maybe I don't want to have Tina Plattner's role. I want to just be Tony Langley instead.
Exactly.
Well, especially at this point in this race, for sure.
Yeah. But I mean, it's great, you know, as we all know Fergal well. He works with us in the commentary team, but he looked like a kid whose ball had burst when he came ashore the other day, and this should be good for them, good for the boys and the Gladiator if they can hang on in there, and also of course for Quantum Racing, always at their most potent when they come back from a difficult day.
Yeah, but good to see Allegra up there in second, isn't it? Another owner driver doing well.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're presently 6th on the leaderboard, and a couple of top 5s today would keep Andy Soriano in a happy mood, very, very positive coming into this season. And I think he was actually the first to commit to a new boat, am I right?
He was, he got the jump on everybody. Definitely everybody, you know, part of the raising the game. New shore set up as well, the containers and the equipment that they have, and it's good to see.
You know, it's interesting, Guy and Andy. The entire fleet still has not dived, so thinking there must have been some sort of flex lift right near the top of the mark, at least definitely down this downwind, because otherwise we would see there's a couple boats that are maybe in better positions, like Sled back in about 6th place, doesn't look to have the best spot. And there was the ability to get to the opposite drive and maybe even get over to the right side of the course, which possibly worked on the first upwind, but nobody is taking it. So I think I'm going to guess it's a little bit of a left to favor right now.
Indeed, that seems to be the case, and That's particularly tough for the Prevets and Platoon, who need passing lanes, need passing opportunities. They don't seem to have any chance other than to follow the procession down, just go as fast as possible.
Yeah, it doesn't really look like it's building that much out there at the moment, does it?
No.
The sea breeze isn't.
It's not Palma.
No. Yeah, Patrick there, the only one sort of out of line taking the high road.
Yeah.
Here goes Tony jibing now.
Gladiator there furl up their stable and then start into their drive. So as we talked about it, it was Gladiator and Onda kind of simultaneously furling staples and driving. Allegre continuing on a bit further and now going for the drive. I think that was just to make sure that they had clear air behind them, between themselves and Onda. Quantum Racing, we might look to see doing the same here, but I don't know that we'll see many passing lanes, as you were saying, Andy. It's hard on the downwind when it's a very long one drive to be able to make any moves, even though Platoon and Prevets definitely near the back of the pack would want to be making them. But for now, it looks like a relatively easy job for the first 4 boats, at least to stay in their positions. The middle of the pack now is starting to drive out. We're seeing Sled is the first boat in the middle of the pack, and we might see some position changes there between 5th through about 9th place. It's very compact, and I think Sled driving while Phoenix still heads this way to the left side of the course. Maybe it'll look like those 2 boats are about equal on leader lines, and behind them Prevets are the first to drive out of the 7th to 10th place boats. I think we could start to see little differences there. I think that's probably what we want to keep our eyes on generally, especially if you're, say, I don't know, a Prevets fan guy.
But at the moment, it just looks like our leaderboard's going to get even closer at the top of the table after this race. That's going to be good for everyone. Putting the pressure, all the pressure going into the last day. Luna Rossa in 8th are Regatta leaders. They have a margin of 3 points over Platoon. Platoon immediately behind them in this race. Quantum's best score so far this regatta is a 3rd. Just seesawing with Onda in terms of distance to the leeward gate.
Sounds like a change of course being announced, doesn't it?
330, I think, for the access to the windward mark. Oh. Nice shot of our TV boat. So can we see any gain on that to the left there with Onda?
Oh, I hope so, as Prevets is up behind them, but I don't think so.
You're so partisan.
Yeah.
Cut me and I say Prevets.
Yeah, too right. Whether Gladiator's going to make it there in one. No, looks like they're going to have to go for a couple. That drone shot there, we just saw, you could see quite good pressure up the course, maybe onto the right hand side coming down.
Yeah,
how light
see
it
it
is
there
this
just
end
now,
of the
just the
course,
back of these kites.
Yeah.
That's what Tony Ray's seeing, I'm quite sure.
Yeah.
Working for it. few words about your navigator, Nacho Postigo. I mean, we had him yesterday as our talking head for the weather here. He's remarkable, isn't he? Just the science that he pulls out of his hat.
Yeah, quite the guru. Yeah, he's good.
He's good, but he's very kind of understated as well. And it's only when you press him and he suddenly goes, "Oh, right," and it gives you the full science as well as just what he reads off the forecast.
Yeah,
and it's wherever he goes.
And he only gets fired up with me when the hose pipe goes down below too early and we start to get his electronics a bit wet.
Get his toys wet. So there we are, Tony Langley and the team on Gladiator going round the Leeward Gate with the lead of about 50 odd metres on Allegra. Andy Soriano's team, and then a gap back between Onda and Quantum. Quantum inside boat, but Onda dropping slightly earlier. Robert Scheidt looking quite relaxed there.
Oh wow!
Oh, having to give.
Side of Onda on this one, in fact.
Wow.
Also keen to go to that left-hand mark.
Really.
What was going on there then, Jenny? Getting a good shot of the pressure there, Guy, isn't there?
Yeah, and everybody's setting themselves up for that bottom mark in order to hit that pressure as they go upwind.
Phoenix coming around, I think they're sixth just now. Sled chasing them around.
Fairly light round the bottom mark here, isn't it? Not everybody's not clamouring to throw themselves on the rail.
Luna Ross around. So the top two boats really do seem to have a little bit of a jump on third place Quantum, and Quantum move clear of Onda by virtue of having inside boat and having rights over Onda at the mark.
I see we've decided to have a stab at the other mark.
Well, somebody has to.
Shake thing up a bit, yep. Spin the dice.
Exactly, but meantime, not too many options for Platoon, and Azura actually dropping down a couple of places. Azura and Luna Rossa just splitting tacks. Luna Rossa just clearing the out to the right. Same as Onda did with Quantum. But you know, once you get out in front in this race course, as we've said several times over the course of this regatta so far, it does get a little bit easier, Guy, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Still don't think it does any good for the nerves.
No, of course not. Of course not. But it's easier to lead, and you know, you can build your lead from the front.
Yeah, absolutely, and then easy to get the second boat to bounce off onto the third boat and get everybody hitting on each other. Yeah, there was a little bit of talk on the dock about whether Azura was getting camped on more times than they should have because of their performance last year.
Yeah. And most of the talk coming from Azura, perhaps.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. It's always unfair.
It's always unfair. They don't like to complain that much, do they? However, say Luna Rossa just stepping clear to windward of them.
Yeah, Quantum having done well though, haven't they? You know, with being on the out on the non-favoured side of the beat, and they've managed to wriggle through at just before that last top mark. In true Quantum style.
I was thinking exactly the same thing. I mean, nothing spectacular, no rolling of the dice or pushing out to the corner. They just
good solid sailing.
Yeah, picked their lane and got across. And then I think as much as anything, good crew work and coming round the round that top mark. I think they picked their spot and got through nicely and seemed to have got ahead of Honda. Platoon appear to have managed to take a place. So Gladiator in good pressure.
Sorry, come again, Andy?
I'm just saying Gladiator in good pressure with Allegra just to leeward. They've got this little jump about 70 or 80 metres on Quantum.
You know, to our eye, we're looking at the back of the pack, and we're watching this Platoon Prada fight. And I think it's funny, Prada, we said it was self-imposed for Luna Rossa to do their triple tacks earlier on the first upwind. And then we've essentially just seen the same thing on the second upwind. They rounded the bottom mark just in front of Platoon, and then they chose to tack off and tack back, and I think have lost a big amount to Platoon here, who are just matching their final tack. But as we said, we can chip their way through the fleet, or they can watch other boats make mistakes, and they can just minimize their mistakes. But it still isn't going to be big steps forward from 11th to much better than, say, 9th for Platoon, but they're trying hard. And then up through the pack, it looks like about 4 boats on the left-hand side have just tacked, so you can see Onda forward. In fact, I think Onda was facing Sled there, so Sled's having to tack back out further left. Back from them, Azura as well, kind of just tacked above Onda's line. All of them a little bit close to the ley line for this new mark, but Maria did switch the mark a little bit, gave us a change of course. That was 15 degrees further left than the last upwind, so that was that left shift that we saw at least on the downwind if we didn't notice it on the upwind. And I think fair enough, it's making this a little bit more of an even race course, but even still, it might be going further left because it seems like this is a very long port tack for the majority of the boats on this upwind here. So we won't see another change of course in the downwind, but we might see the marks move further left throughout the afternoon, and that makes sense because the sea breeze is a bit further west of northwest. So we're right now at 3:30 for our top mark, and I think that's much more of a sea breeze direction than we were seeing the 345s, 360s earlier.
So that is all to the good of Gladiator and Allegri, and indicating ongoing pain for Provezza and Paprec in particular. Luna Rossa out to the right.
You know, Provezza unfortunately rounded, I think, the right-hand side mark, so they've lost out a little bit on this left shift, and it looks like Platoon and Luna Rossa both have gotten by them, if I'm not mistaken. They should be ahead on the leaderboard.
Yep, thanks for rubbing it in, Jenny.
We're having our own little battle in our in our motorboat with one of those cruisers you were talking about earlier, Guy. The guy's just a little too close to the course for our comfort, and we're having to wave them off and also trying to not capsize in the wake of their boat. So we're a little bit further from the fleet than I would like. But yeah, it really looks like Gladiator and Allegra at the top of the course there have got some wheels. I think Gladiator extended beautifully on that downwind. I'm not sure now who the downwind trimmer is between John O'Swain and Will Alloway. I know they're both trimming on the upwind. I'm not sure Yeah, if they let the young guy go for it in the downwind, or maybe he's just the offside trimmer. But we know they're giving them some experience on board. And then, of course, Allegre, we've got Gunderson, John Gundy, as their, I think their jib trimmer.
And their
main trimmer is Noel Drennan, so long-time guys in the sport. And they haven't had the best regatta so far, but doing very well now, legging out from Quantum Racing, who looks to be clearly into this third position now, Honda having dropped back quite substantially since their bottom mark rounding. I think surprisingly, Honda, they had rounded third at the top mark. They rounded just on Quantum's stern at the bottom mark, giving Quantum room and then trying to round super wide and tight on their stern. But I'm not sure what happened thereafter. They've fully given Quantum about.
Yeah, they tacked to clear and just obviously lost out a little bit to Sled and thereafter.
They're sort of giving opportunity to Phoenix there by having dropped back. They're playing more in line with Sled and Phoenix, and I think this could be really good moves for the South African team, the team we talked about already sitting third overall in this regatta. If they're able to move into, say, fourth position, I'm not sure if maybe that would even put them on top of the leaderboard. I mean, Platoon and Luna Rosa so far back down the pack that Phoenix sitting only on 17 points right now, with Platoon on 14 and Luna Rosa on 11. Well, Luna Rosa's still got a good enough lead, but they are quite deep. No, maybe they're only 3-4 lengths back, so perhaps it'll still be Luna Rosa in the lead after this, but it's definitely all going to tighten up massively after this race.
Allegro look like they've come in a little bit gladiator there.
Again, to half a boat length or so.
Yeah, but while keeping Quantum at bay, which is, you might have expected Quantum to chip away at them, but
there on their own as well. I think maybe they were just getting the tiniest bit affected by Allegre, so instead they've chosen to hitch up and affect Sled just a little bit, give them a piece of their mind, and I think Sled unfortunately is rolling over the top of Honda pretty easily, so I really am not sure what's going on with Honda. They're having some major boat speed issues on this upwind, but perhaps, as we said, it's just growing pains of a new team, new to the class, and a new crew altogether, but I think Sled pretty easily is rolling over the top of Honda. They just don't look as powered up as the rest of the fleet. It's like they depowered earlier and they haven't really figured out how to repower their boat. So not only are they sitting in Sled's bad air, but they're pretty flat generally.
Yeah, I think we're starting to see a bit lighter on the two leaders as well. Just before that tack, a lot of people sitting in on both boats. Oh, sorry, and tacking into the top mark as well.
So Gladiator...
we talk about Sled there. Yeah, exactly. Gladiator rounding the top mark, closely followed, in fact, by Allegre. I think Allegre was able to put some distance to minimize some of the distance on that upwind. Gladiator had pulled out to about a 4-length lead by the bottom marks, but it is looking very, very tight indeed as they round this top mark and the tight reach to the offset mark. I think it's going to be all on here for the bow guys on board both boats to make sure they don't make any mistakes. We know Cat Flip on board Gladiator, a good, solid bowman, and I'm sure Allegre, Mateo, Aguerdo as well. They're both going to be looking to have clean sets here because this is very much a battle for first place. There's kind of, Quantum's in the rear view right now. It's about a 6-7 foot length back to Quantum. So I think for sure Allegre is doing everything they can to be in touch with Gladiator. But I think unfortunately Gladiator, really beautiful hoist. Kite was up and drawing before they even got past the offset mark. And Allegre just a bit slow on the hoist, almost half a boat length to a full boat length past the offset before they got their kite filled. And it's just getting light enough now where if it's not filled and drawing, the kites are still whiskering a little bit. So I think that I'd probably call it a gain to Gladiator. In fact, Allegre rolling into the jibe right away. So an interesting kind of aggressive, not quite match racing move, but aggressive tactical move to go, all right, we're going to jibe and we're going to let you have to fight for a much further distance to then jibe. And I think maybe what we're seeing is a touch of a right shift. It definitely looks like Allegre is able to hold a really nice angle down to the bottom marks. Quantum behind them set very early on that offset mark indeed, so that would indicate a right shift as well. Quantum not going for the jibe yet, and I think unfortunately for Allegre, they sailed through so much of the bad air of the fleet here. You can see really how badly it's affecting them. At the same point in time, they're so much earlier to get onto the favored jibe than Gladiator that it might still be a gain. Gladiator just finally rolling into the jibe here, and I think for them, it's actually a little bit less breeze out here on this side of the course, the far left of the course. And I think that should be a lead change. I think we should see Allegre top the leaderboard now.
Yeah. Gladiator definitely missing out there and may lose Quantum.
Yeah, Quantum going inside there might even be able to now fight Gladiator for the second place for the rest of the race. I don't think they've quite jibed on their air. I think it's almost light enough now that the breeze is forward of Gladiator, and it's kind of far enough right shift that the breeze is forward as well. But this will be a good position for Quantum to be in if it gets a tiny bit windier and the marks are just a bit further downwind, which it looks like they are. They'll have to bear away at some point if they've got any more pressure than they currently have. And as we said earlier, it's just phasing up and down, so this is a down phase for sure in the breeze. The angles are hotter. The kites are much more unstable. The amount of chop that we have now in this afternoon sea breeze has been building throughout the evening and the afternoon, and it's really starting to affect the way they sail the boats now. And I think they're just having to sail a bit hotter all the time to keep the boats moving forward and to keep the spinnakers happy.
So a little bit of a turnaround to the head of the fleet then, with Allegre now over 200 meters ahead of Gladiator. Just from Gladiator falling out at the edge of the breeze.
Yeah, I'm impressed with that call by Andy Horton, tactician on Allegre. I mean, I think it was a spicy call to say, all right, we're going to jibe right away right here, even knowing we'll have all the bad air of the whole fleet that we've only just rounded kind of in front of. And they had to even bear away and duck whoever was last's top wreck. So sort of had to bear away and duck pop wreck as they were going upwind. But it was clearly a gain to what Gladiator did, which was sail out into a hole and sail, what kind of looked like a lift, but might have just been less air, even with the bad air that Allegre was having. So well done to those guys to just stick to their guns to go for it, and they clearly are gaining the advantage of winning this race because, and I think even right now we're seeing them get into more pressure up at the front of the course, really able to bear away over the bow of Gladiator and accelerate forward. So we should see that lead increasing all the time for Allegre. What's surprising is that battle, that fight to get into that top for the first three boats hasn't really extended for the rest of the pack. Instead, the pressure kind of fills back down through the course here. And so we've got Phoenix, Onda, Luna Rosa, Platoon, all remaining on starboard tack after the top mark. And I think it doesn't look like losses to them compared to Sled, who's the only boat who's jibed out. But again, as we talk about it, Platoon, I don't know how they did it, but they're now in front of Provetza and Azura. They've just chipped away the little the little numbers, sorry guy, but chipping away one boat at a time, and it's moved them up at least to not 10th, but instead 8th place. I'm sure they'd love to get Luna Rosa behind them, especially because those are the two boats at the top of the leaderboard, but at least they haven't got that many boats in between them anymore, so that'll make Platoon happy.
But just our picture showing Phoenix just now, they seem to be in quite good pressure, Guy. Still coming down this
not too bad.
Yeah,
it's those drone shots that we keep seeing. We can see the pressure on the water. Definitely the leaders over the far side there in a nice dark patch, aren't they?
Yeah, but then there's not
the big
much
gap,
in between.
Yeah,
you really have to commit in this run, don't you?
Yeah.
You know, the interesting call will be whether Sled's early drive will allow them to move all the way through this pack and maybe even into fourth. I think Sled was the only aggressive boat in the back half, in the 4th through 11th places, and I think maybe if we're seeing that huge pressure line, and not huge, but medium pressure line on the far side and big right shift, it looks like Sled would be the one to take the biggest advantage of that and make the biggest gain.
Yeah, it definitely looks like they're in darker water there. I think you could well be right. You're a big move there, really. It's going back to that top mark with Allegra jibing away from Gladiator, you know, into all that dirt.
Yeah.
They must have really seen it and felt very keen on it. They've done well.
You know, and it's turned an impressive lead now for Allegra. It looks from afar, we're all the way across the course, but it looks like about a 10 or 12 foot length lead for them. Whereas behind, still a very tight fight for Gladiator and Quantum, and I can't tell from here whether Quantum is actually maybe starting to roll over the top of Gladiator. It still looks like that on virtual eye, Andy. They definitely look to be much closer than they were earlier.
They're certainly closer. I mean, it's just yo-yoing back and forwards between Quantum and Gladiator, but there's only a couple of meters in it. But anyway, yeah, it's going to be interesting to ask Andy Horton what it was he saw for that bold call at the windward mark, and not won a race yet this season. Best is second in Sibinic in the middle of the regatta there. They had a second in the 4th race in Sibinic. In the meantime, a battle between Gladiator and Quantum.
You know, we're just starting to see Quantum really overlap Gladiator hard here, so I think it shouldn't be soon before Quantum's actually rolled over the top. And I think, unfortunately, they're on the long drive and they're in kind of the better pressure over on that side as well. So Gladiator might just have to stay there to hold on to that. We don't really have any tight battles like that over on this side of the race course. On the left-hand side, we, as you guys are saying, Platoon, we've already seen chip through the fleet, and in front of them it's a pretty big gap to Luna Rossa. In front of Luna Rossa is not quite a big gap to Onda, so that could be the one potential passing opportunity that we have remaining, is whether the Italians can really show fine form and move up to possibly even 6th place here from what was quite cheap earlier in the race. Phoenix, though, Andy, surprisingly still doing, not surprisingly, I should say, doing very well in this regatta period. So holding off what could be a 5th place here, if Sled's going to be in 4th, and that would put them 6-4-7-1-5. I mean, that's a great score line for your first time driving this year in the Super Series.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what Platoon does as well. You know, at the moment they would be, I think, either tied or there'd be just 1 point in it between them and Platoon. So it's all on down this final run between the two of them. And similarly, every point for Luna Rossa down this run can make the difference.
We've just seen the first boat jibe back from that side, which is Sled, and I think talking about the 2-way tie, it might even be a 3-way tie. If Sled finishes 4th, it'd also be on the same points as Phoenix finishing 5th, because they're just 1 point behind Sled, and again on the same points with Platoon as well. So this will be a really interesting battle between those 3 boats to see who's second, who's third, who's 4th after the next race. But hopefully we will get a second race today, and of course more racing tomorrow. Everyone who's watching the broadcast, make sure to tune in tomorrow. It's going to be fiery, I think, again. But Sled here, having tried back from that side, not a fabulous angle at this point in time, but I think they should look like they're crossing the fleet. Is that what virtual eye showing? Crossing the fleet on this side at least, staying in fourth.
Yeah, looks very much like it. Yeah, they're kind of out on their own a little bit on that right side looking downwind. And certainly Phoenix still pressing forward.
Looking pretty light down this end. Deployed the staysail there and crew weight moving forward on Allegra. They do seem to have a good lead though. They've done well.
Looking back to Quantum seemed quite light.
Yeah.
Way back in that quarter. It's really just about picking your way down this breeze to the finish line now, isn't it? And actually Gladiator gonna have to heat things up just a little bit. But Jenny, how far do Allegri have to go to the line? I think we're just getting to see it in a second.
Yeah, I mean, we're sitting right at the line. It looks like Allegri's got about another 15, 20 boat lengths here. They jived a bit early in the lay line, so just at the end we're actually seeing them go into a bit more of a soak mode. I think they've decided in the last 10 boat lengths not to go for the second jive, maybe just to see if they can soak it down. They've gotten a tiny bit of a puff that might allow them to pull that mode off, but they might decide last second that it's worth a jibe after all. They're clearly going a little bit slower there than the Gladiator, who's sailing a much hotter angle into the pen. But you can see them all standing up here, getting ready for whatever it is. Now, maybe they're just moving weight to lure there because, as we said, soak mode slower. They didn't need to be with so much weight on the weather side. And, yeah, it looks like they will not jibe. They will just come in here in the soak mode. But every second as this is going on, Gladiator is gaining and gaining and gaining. I mean, Gladiator is sailing a much hotter angle, and underneath him, Quantum sailing an even hotter angle still. But I think Allegri only now 2 boat lengths to go. It will not be enough for Gladiator to pull their lead back. Instead, Allegri able with that brilliant move at the top mark to steal the gun out from Tony Langley. And in fact, that's Andy Soriano and Andy Horton there just clapping each other on the back there for taking that race one on the second to last day here in the Zadar Royal Cup. That was a very, very impressive final downwind.
It was indeed, as I said, their first race win of the season. The best was second in Šibenik, where they finished 7th overall. Looking a little bit more like it's going to be a second for Gladiator. You really can't fault them for their top mark decision, I don't think.
Gladiator, they're rolling through the finish line with their red kite. I think that's going to be such disappointment for them to have lost out just to the top mark on that. But the only kind of relief is actually that they had such a close battle with Quantum and they were able to hold them off. So while they can't get their first race win of the series, they at least got their second place. They didn't lose to Quantum Racing. So well done there for Tony Langley to hold off at least the next boat behind him, Quantum Racing, who haven't had the best regatta so far, just sliding into third there. They've already got one third in this regatta, but yeah, the third place makes them happier, moved them up the leaderboard a little bit. And then just behind Phoenix here, just nipped sled on the downwind. So we missed the cross, but it was Phoenix across and Phoenix rolling into the finish line here for a 4th place. I think that should move them ahead of Platoon and possibly ahead, staying ahead of sled, but ahead of Platoon in the overalls. We'll see as they cross the line whether that's an accurate statement there. But Phoenix really well sailed to get up to 4th place. Sled just crossing behind them into 5th in the white boat. And then Onda, unfortunately, having dropped from 3rd place at the very first top mark through to 6th place here. So the Brazilian team, a little bit of teething pains still going on here. Haven't had a spectacular regatta so far, sitting in 11th on the leaderboard, but they'll take the 6th place. They've got some really good teams behind them, and as we talk about that, the teams behind them coming in hot. The current leaders and second place in this regatta, it's Luna Rossa, just ahead of Platoon. Luna Rossa here by Francesco Bruni. He's actually standing quite far back in the back of the boat, tiller in hand. I think he just wants to keep an eye on that pen, so you can see him looking under the boom every now and then as the boom drops, and there they go. Pen underneath them crossing the line. Luna Rossa, a difficult race for them with a 7th place, but behind them, an even more difficult place, for Platoon, and yet they're going to be happier with that than they would have been with the 10th place that they were in that top rounding. So Platoon just keeping the other Italian team behind them, catching up to 8th, while Azura drops down to 9th. And at points, remember, guys, we saw them leading off the pen end in the first upwind in the virtualized, so that's going to be a stinger of a race for Azura to come across the line in 9th. And sorry again, Guy, to harp on it, but an even more stinger of a race for Privet. So they were up and down throughout that race, but they're finishing on the down end of the line here with 10th place. And in fact, Patrick was able to make some gains there. We saw them at points almost 10, 15, 20 boat lengths behind the fleet. They did just catch up to only a boat length behind Privetza, but it's not enough. It's still in 11th place there. But that is the fleet across the line on the first race of today. And let's hope, fingers crossed, we get another race. The breeze is down, but it is still definitely sailable. So I think we'll be going again soon, you guys.
That's right, indeed the case. So Luna Rossa still leading by 3 points as they were. The difference being, I think, Phoenix overtaking Platoon for second, Jenny.
Yeah, I think so. I think that was a really impressive. It was Phoenix overtaking Sled on that downwind that allowed them to overtake Platoon for second. And I think you guys so impressive here. This is a great performance for this team, and I think we maybe should see Tina skippering that boat more often.
Oh, steady on now. Remember who pays the bills. Anyway.
So just heard.
Yeah, go on.
I've heard Maria with confirmation there of the scores, but it wasn't. We didn't see any super close finishes there, so no changes from what we had thought the scores might be. We're just going to listen into when she says the next start is, and we'll let you guys know.
Indeed, indeed. So, a win then for Allegri, which is certainly a big morale booster for them. Move them up their position on the leaderboard and getting a little bit closer between Platoon and Phoenix, but Luna Rossa still hanging in there at the top, Guy.
Yeah. Oh, tough. Sorry, a bit speechless with our performance.
It's hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
But,
difficult race, isn't it? I mean, just so light.
Yeah.
Not really shifty. You know, Allegro did a great job there at the top mark. You know, all credit to them. And, you know, around the top mark, and like we were saying before the start of the race, Platoon able to wriggle away through a few places as they did, gain a couple more, and you know, once again, Quantum with a good solid performance.
I mean, I think to be fair, the standout performance really was Quantum, who were fairly modest early on in the first beat, and when they got into real traffic at the top mark, they managed to wriggle through and then take Onda, and just really pushing hard with some momentum as they need, you'd have to say, you know, from 7th place. A third is good for them, but and Luna Rossa, that early error, Jenny, what were your, looking back on that, what are your thoughts on Luna Rossa tacking away from, they clearly saw what was happening on the right, but perhaps didn't feel they should take too many sterns to get there?
Yeah, I think the bummer was the shift was against them,
Yeah.
and they were stuck underneath everyone, and so we saw them kind of trying to fight for it for the 3 minutes that they debated tacking and didn't tack and then tacked, and I think that was probably the 3 minutes that they could have been on the lifted tack, and instead, by the time they got onto the lifted tack, they then got headed and they tacked themselves back. And unfortunately, if you're trying to play the shift instead of the sides of the course, and you end up doing it like that, you're playing neither well. So unfortunately, it didn't work out for them. But you know, for Azura, who came from the far left, it didn't work out for them either. The only boat that was kind of able to make the left play was Quantum Racing, and we'll have to go back and do a little look through the race itself to see how Quantum was actually just able to make their way through the pack there when the rest of the guys on the left weren't. I don't really know how they did it because it looked like they were so close to everyone else on that side, and everyone else was deep through the fleet in the end.
I think it was as much about their approach to the top mark when it got really busy. I think they just found a space and got round. But it'll be interesting to see on the replays later on exactly how that played out. But as ever, very, very astute, solid tactics from Terry Hutchison and Dean Barker. Yeah, sorry, go on.
Exactly. It might be the kind of thing that is just, it goes to the experience of Terry in this fleet, say, compared to Santiago Lange, and even the experience of Vasco in many ways. But Santi, who was the tactician on Azura, who should have been inside of Quantum there and probably should have been ahead of Quantum there. Instead, he said, he's learning the boats and the way they perform and the way the fleet performs. And of course, for him, it's very different than the gold medal that he won in the most recent Olympics in the Nacra, which is a semi-foiling catamaran that reacts very, very differently than how these boats would. And so to be able to make those quick second decisions at the top when it gets really crowded, knowing how these boats react, how this fleet reacts, it's many days maybe much easier for guys like Terry and Dean who've been in the fleet for forever than it would be, say, for Azura right now for Santiago. But that's why he's here. That's what they're learning.
That's what they're learning. Just looking at Honda. And they unfortunately went. Same thing applies there, doesn't it? Just the fine positioning. Yeah.
You can say Robert Scheidt in many ways that the Star is not like the Laser, but they're much more alike than they are to the 52. So
but
I think
so much of it is also with the owner driver. It's how far you're prepared to put them into awkward positions, and I think Robert's probably still quite conservative in that from that point of view, whereas Terry's prepared to push a little bit more. And he, between the three of them, they've all sailed many years, albeit in different pairings, if you like. Terry sailed with Doug DeVos for 10 years, 15 years on different boats, and he sailed with Dean, so they know where they can push. He said after they took the bowsprit off a couple of days ago, but I think that was really just circumstantial at the time. They just spun a little bit too quickly.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair. I'm not quite sure how much experience Edward De Souza has in the 52. I know that the guy who's driving right now, Joko Signorino, he's the a Volvo Ocean Race winner and veteran, and he was kind of one of the lead coaches of Team SCA, so he's a bit more familiar with the slower keel boats than say with bigger keel boats than say Scheidt would be. But in many ways, you're right. It's not just the one guy and the tactics he's calling. It's the interplay and the relationships between all of them. And this is such a new crew sailing with each other all together that every dynamic is different. Even just the words you might say on board with your star crew would be very different than the words you would say on board to not only an owner but to a team of 11 people. And I think they're working that out. And we saw them have a great regatta last time in Šibenik, and we said maybe it was beginner's luck doing as well as they did with their 5th place. But again, I think we will see that team shine in the future.
And also, of course, here we're seeing we're seeing the other teams who perhaps didn't have the best regatta in Šibenik. They're also raised their game, and that's going to be the story of the season, isn't it? I think you can't afford to stand still for any length of time in this fleet.
And everybody getting their acts together, isn't it? And you're looking through all their data and trying to work out how it's all going to happen. We're talking a lot here about Tina and how well they're doing, but then there's a boat that necessarily doesn't really have any pressure from last season and what's gone before, so they can just go out there and get on with it, rather than having too many things to think about. It's just go out, sail the boat, enjoy it.
Yeah, and I think that when you say that, and you go back to Ed Baird, and he's he will be saying that. And the team will feel that they've got nothing to prove whatsoever. Every point is a bonus to them, and it'll be interesting to see them in Cascais.
Yeah.
Supposing they can come away with a decent result, but we've got 3 races left, and they're certainly up in the podium positions. But anyway, Jenny, how's the breeze looking? Are we looking solid for a second race, do you reckon?
It is still looking solid. There's an up phase right now, so we have a couple of light cups. It's not nearly quite as strong as it was earlier, where I think we were seeing 13, maybe even at times 14, but we probably have about 11, 12 here at the moment. So we saw probably as light as 6 or 7 on some of those downwinds when we were in a down phase, but I think now we've got plenty of breeze. I think we just need to see what the direction is, whether it's still 345 or maybe it went even a little bit further left again and then back right. So Maria will be I'm guessing calling this as the last race of the day. It's already relatively late in the day, so she'll just want to make sure that she's got it perfect before sending them off. And yeah, I'm just looking at the time now, 4:10. Granted, it's light out here until 9, so they could technically stay out all night long. We could see 3 races easily, but I don't think that'll be in the cards today. So just want to make sure to get it right. And just in front of us, we're seeing Luna Rossa, about 5 of the guys on board squeezing in a sandwich, getting ready to make sure they're ready for the next race. But also they're taking their mainsail down. So not quite sure what's happening here with the Luna Rossa team. Nobody else is taking their, no, apologies, that's not true. Gladiator is taking their main down as well. So maybe that signals that there's a little bit of a delay and they just want to save their main. We'll have to see what's going on. I haven't heard anything from the PRO so far.
No, Jenny, what we're seeing is we've got Allegra in front of us here at the moment. I think they're probably checking out whether they're going to change their mainsail or not, whether they thought it was going to be a bit more breeze in that last race and between their light air main and their medium air main. Obviously taking the time to have a snack as well. There's Quantum's main coming down now, so maybe
you'd expect the breeze to drop away. I mean, as we saw in the coastal race, the same time of day.
Yeah.
It's a difficult call for Maria to set off a race when you suspect it may drop to 5 or 6 knots. But the last race win for Allegra was way back in the Scarlino, their favourite venue, you'd have to say. But they won a race in Scarlino last year in Tuscany. Do seem to do quite well in the early part of the seasons, do Allegra, and then have some bumpy moments later on in the year. But all credit to them. So important to get a race win under your belt at some point in the early part of the season when you've made such investment in the hardware and the team.
Yeah, absolutely. They'll be getting a long way to making them feel good and build confidence for the rest of the season. You know you can do it.
So we just did hear word there from Maria that the next warning signal will be at 4:30 our time. So 16, 17 minutes from now, I think. So a little bit of time for these guys to switch mainsails if they want. I'm not sure that it looks like the breeze will be any different for this race. I would say it got light at points in that last race.
Yeah.
Breeze is back up again here. But if the decision is that it's lighter for longer and that they were maybe in their mediums and they want to be in their light lanes instead, then that would be a decision it seems like a couple of the boats are making. Definitely not the whole pack here. I think the only teams we see, there's only 4 boats right now with their mainsails down out of the 11. So the other guys might have already been on different mains, we don't know, or they've just decided, no, the breeze is about the same. But 17 minutes, plenty of time to make that change anyway.
So things looking pretty relaxed on the Quantum Racing, certainly more relaxed than they were when they came ashore after the coastal race for sure. But let's have a look at the standings after that race, which was race number 5. Well, Luna Rossa still lead by 3 points, but second place is now Phoenix, Tina Plattner and the crew on 21 points. Platoon in third on 22, Sled 23, Allegra 25 and Quantum on 30. So tight at the top. So we've probably got 3 races left. We're going to go straight into the second race of the day. And really, you're trying to guess who might finish up on the podium, Guy.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty tough. Yeah, not us, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think we're going to we'll take a little bit of a break and then come back just before the start of the second race. Welcome back to Zadar in Croatia. Then we're going into the second race of the day. A win there for Andy Soriano's team on Allegri. We just have a reasonable breeze out on the race course. We have about 1 minute and 40 seconds. Guy Barron, your thoughts going into this race?
We'll hope it's a lot better for Provezza this time. Fingers crossed for us. I mean, we seem to have a good start off that on the last start, and seemed to be going quite well. But shift didn't go our way and got stuck at the back. So
that was it. It was the same for a few boats.
Yeah.
But credit to Gladiator, Allegri, and particularly Quantum Racing, who got away quite nicely. And we're at just 1 minute and 20 seconds to go. I think we have Jenny Tulloch on the water. Hopefully, Jenny.
Yeah, you do have me on the water. 1 minute 20 to go, and I think we've got much more breeze than we had earlier. So you can see the fleet a little bit further back from the line, a little bit more conservative here. And I love that the late afternoon sea breeze just clocked in an extra 5 knots for us, just to give us a little show for the end of the Saturday, get everyone fired up for Saturday night. But you can see right now, 45 seconds to go. The fleet much more spread out across the line. Poprek, in fact, pin end of the line here, going to be an easy start from the pin because they're not really fighting hard for it. Instead, the big bunch up is more towards the boat in the line. It looks like Sled is the weathermost boat underneath them, maybe Luna Rossa, below that Phoenix, below them Allegri, Gladiator, maybe even furthest boat end. 25 seconds to go now. Quantum Racing and have a beautiful start to leeward of that to Windward, allow them to choose what they want to do with their lane. Middle pin, Platoon just above Azura, Provezza, and Poprek Racing with 10 seconds to go. I think it's going to be that top end of the line, closer to the line. Doesn't look like anyone will be over early. 5 seconds to go. 3, 2, 1. Best acceleration here, possibly Platoon in the middle. Maybe Onda at the boat end of the line there, looking for some redemption after dropping from 3rd to 6th. Onda looking like they had their bow out early at the boat end, and Platoon in the middle. I'm not sure what you guys see on the virtual, Andy.
Yeah, much the same as you did. A reasonable start there from the Provezza guy. Once they got the boat wound up, but we were watching Gladiator then having to tack out early out to that right side. Good start from Platoon. Platoon seemed to have plenty of space round about them. Fairly typical of their strategy, if it's possible. Pick their lane early on, and same applies for Quantum. Quantum seem to be able to do their own thing, really.
Glad we're seeing a bit more wind in this race. Hopefully make it a bit more interesting. And interesting to see that both Provezza and Azura have gone for the left-hand end of the line again. So not feeling that shift will be out on the right. And Gladiator, they're tacking out, heading back out to where they did so well from the beginning of the last race. So.
Yeah, and Phoenix looking a little bit more in the pack, shall we say, and Azura not looking so strong off the, or sorry, Luna Rossa not looking so good. Certainly in terms of the group to the right. But good wind pressure, Jenny, 11, 12 knots.
You know, it's almost more like 15, 16 knots
oh,
now.
Really?
Wow. The breeze finally clocked into this sea breeze, 295, 300 direction. So much more what we were expecting out of a sea breeze direction. It just took a while to get here because this morning we still had some leftover remnants of that Bora, and it killed it early. But I think ultimately it allowed the breeze to clear out, allowed kind of the underflow that helps the sea breeze develop. And I think that's what we're seeing now is the kicking in of a late afternoon sea breeze. Well, it's only 4:30. It's not even that late in the afternoon, but I think the 15, 16 knots is a breath of fresh air for everybody here. I think Luna Rossa, unfortunately, having to tack out as well. Gladiator, as you guys said, sticking to their guns out on the right-hand side. But it is a very different racetrack. Now the breeze is almost 100 degrees left of where it was last race, maybe 70 degrees left of where it was last race. And I don't think that right side will be possibly as easy for Gladiator as it was the first upwind. I think instead maybe Guy, Provezza here in the middle, or Quantum Platoon here on the left, or Quantum Platoon in the middle might be the ones coming out of this looking swell.
Well, certainly hope so. And it's not looking like that on the virtual eye at the moment, and the TV camera's not showing me Provezza, though.
We only got a few tantalising glimpses of her again.
Hiking through the, yeah.
But Platoon looked quite good on this shot we've got just now, just to weather and forward of the Azura. Bit more of a drag race just now.
Yeah, Luna Rossa and
Glad. Drag race for sure between Platoon and Azura, but just what you're saying just off camera from the TV is Preveza. So they're about 2 boat lengths to leeward and maybe 2 boat lengths forward. So I think, unfortunately for Azura, Preveza is getting the better of them, allowing Platoon maybe to just be breathing out of their bad air, whereas Azura looks like they're falling into Preveza's line a little bit. Azura, I'm assuming, will have to tack soon, while Platoon maybe, if they can keep their high line, stay off Preveza's bad air, they could be the 2 boats leading from this left soon on. But it still looks like the fight in the middle is equally hard. Honda had a great start earlier. I can just see the green, lime green lines of Quantum sails there in the middle as well. Looks like they've dropped back just a touch to Platoon, but they have not tacked yet. And I think right at the back we're seeing the red stripes of Phoenix. So a really good speed duel battle here between about 7 boats out on the left-hand side to see who is going to be the leader from the left.
That's right. Meantime, Luna Rossa to the right of that group, but a little bit further back on the group. Got some work to do. We have them in 10th on virtual.
Yeah, I wouldn't write the right-hand side off yet, seeing how well they've done earlier on in the day. And
let's keep our eyes on the Luna Rossa. But good breeze. Preveza sailing for speed a little bit just now, just trying to punch into this left side. And Zura can't live in there for very much longer and have to tack out.
yeah, I think we've got to be happy with our mode here. We seem to be sailing pretty well.
Yeah.
Just whether we're in the right place or not, time will tell.
Don't think Platoon starting to hurt Quantum a bit, I think, Jenny.
I do think so, a little bit. Yeah, it looks like they've kind of fought high for this high lane. They were closer to Preveza's line earlier. Maybe they were trying to roll over the top of Azura earlier. Now that Azura's out and they're slightly closer to Preveza, they've gone back into high mode, and they're trying to eat up to Quantum and start to affect them. But at the same point in time, they've actually inched back a bit on Quantum. Quantum inching forward a little on Platoon. So it depends on how close they can get them, how much they can sacrifice their speed for their height mode, and whether they can start to affect Quantum racing with their bad air. And if not, we'll see them put their bow down, because now they have plenty of distance to leeward again to re-accelerate if needed, if they think they're losing out to Quantum instead of gaining. But I think they're probably pretty happy with this. I think it actually looks like their bow's starting to pull back forward again. So the height mode did the trick, and they're going to be affecting Quantum. Now, Quantum still has plenty of distance to weather between themselves and what I think is it Allegre to their riders. It's flat. It's hard to tell from here. I think it's
Allegre.
So yeah, so they're just still pulling forward on Allegre. So Quantum will do just fine. This drag race here between what is essentially 5 boats.
But it's a fantastic race, yeah.
If you count Preveza below them, yeah, that's impressive. And they're all doing equally well. I mean, the boats that got spread out the back, even those guys, Phoenix and Azura, they hung for a very, very long time before finally tacking out. So I think it's been really an excellent testament to all the trimmers and drivers here. It's not an easy race course, and it's not easy with these waves anymore. You know, it's got some really decent chops here, and good breeze as well. It's very different conditions than the last race. So everyone's had to switch gears, mentally switch gears with their sail setup, switch gears with their style of driving, and for sure the numbers will be different on board. So to see them have such a almost starkly equal lineup here is amazing.
Yeah, I think it's some testament to the way, you know, the designs of the boats over the winter and what the designers have done to, you know, make them all go that little bit faster, and they've obviously all got it fairly right. I mean, it's a great drag race, isn't it? You're all just, nobody's getting spat out the door. Everybody's holding their lane.
This is probably as much breeze as we've seen on the race course, on a 52 Super Series race course for points. I think there was probably as much, if not a little bit more, in the practice race and during unofficial practices. But
is that Quantum tacking out there on the virtual? Yeah.
And Quantum, I don't think they were forced to tack there. I think that was a decision tactically So whether it was just finally a touch more of a left shift and they decided it was time, or whether they'd rather be checking in with the guys up on the right. I mean, I
think it's the checking in.
Lineup,
yeah. Same too for Platoon. You know, you'd have to have a lot of faith in the left just now to stay where they were, and giving their position, particularly Platoon, in the position on the Regatta standings, is a case of checking in with your opposition as much as anything, isn't it?
Exactly. Platoon followed as well up to the middle of the race course, which, again, as we said, is no surprise. JK likes to play the ships in the middle, but still coming out this way. Allegre followed by Onda, and the boat above them, apologies you guys, I can't see who's just to windward of Onda, but they look to have the best of this pack of three, whoever that weather boat is.
I think it's still Allegre, isn't it? Or Sled?
Sled would be the weather boat, okay. Yeah. So Allegre to Leeward. Because everyone who's tacked here, they didn't even duck, they just tacked and were clear astern of that pack of three by a half boat length to maybe a boat length when Platoon and Quantum went into the tack. So whoever leads from that pack of three will be the winners on the left. I think Preventa going for their attack here, but I also am going to guess that Preventa will be clear astern, although that's a harder ask here. They don't look to be ducking, or they don't look to be crossing clear astern nearly as no, they're going for a hard duck now, in fact. So Preventa bow down 10 degrees there is making a big duck, and let's just hope that nobody faces them for your sake and their sake, guys.
Well, I think it's probably a sensible thing to do, isn't it? Otherwise, you're going to just go to the ley line and wait for everybody to detect, and then you're coming in on the top mark on port, you know, so take it back into the middle.
I know they got faced, though.
Yeah.
So Sled agreeing with you. We're too close to the ley line. It's time to go. And right as Preventa ducks the final boat, the white boat tack. So, you know, we don't play any favorites out here, and they definitely did not there. Ray Davies going, I'll see you guys later, and Preventa had to go hard bow down to try to clear their breeze, and there's the domino of Onda and Allegra all going at once. So I think, yeah, you're right. I agree that there wasn't too much further to go to the ley line there, but I think that's a tough ask to then tack and have everyone tack on you. Maybe if they'd just been a tiny bit more patient and gone with the domino, it could have gone better, but who knows? You know, we can't decide one way or the other, but now it's put them in a hard spot as Optrek and Quantum and Platoon come back. I think Preventa will either be ducking or will be clear astern of that starboard pack. So it could be a really big swing of about 7 boats in just a very short period of time. But Sled, it looks like for sure with the lead from this left. And I don't know, perhaps on the far side, Phoenix looks to be coming back. The red stripes on the sail doing well, if not maybe beating Sled.
Yeah, I think it's close. I mean, they're just converging just now, but certainly between the two of them as the top two on board with Luna Rossa. Luna Rossa have a little bit of work to do in this race. What are we seeing there, Guy, of interest?
Oh, that guy's all hunkered down. Maybe he's not quite who is that? Hiking quite hard enough. Make it hurt a bit more.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, you can sometimes come away from these.
They're regretting those sandwiches they had they had in between the races. Seems so easy and so light at the moment, and now it's the time when you go, oh, I should have just had a bar. That was it.
Yeah.
Phoenix leaves out the fleet there. I think a good conservative spot for Ed Baird to pick up in the middle of the course. Phoenix kind of bowing Platoon, it looks like, is the next step up, and I'm not sure when they come back if maybe Platoon will make some gains in the middle there over these guys to the left. Perhaps it looks like they're bow out now and Sled instead.
It's just changing all the time on the leaderboard. Between Onda on this left side, Sled and Phoenix. You'd kind of favour the position that Phoenix are in, perhaps.
Yeah. Platoon's done nicely there, haven't they? Look at that. They've stuck themselves out.
I think you'd probably prefer Phoenix's position to Sled's, but
yeah, I think so. Going to the ley line, Tack on the ley line, coming with plenty of speed. You'd be happy about that, wouldn't you?
I would. Give them the chance.
With this fleet, yeah, they still want to overstand it.
Especially whenever it's so close coming in with everybody on port, then...
Yeah. When these fleets get so tight, sometimes it's better to overstand a little bit, and that keep the pace. And if people are attacking underneath, you roll over them.
You've got the pace to roll over them, yeah.
And you definitely see it in the RC-44 fleet.
However, Sleds are our early leaders as we approach the Windward mark. Race number 6.
So far they're playing out like we asked for earlier, Andy. I think Phoenix looks to be like they'll be rounding this top mark in the lead. Barring anything else, I don't see someone catching up to them at the moment.
Yeah.
Platoon very close behind, though, in second place here. I think Gladiator coming across, they would have leap out the fleet as well. So came from the right, doing decently, should possibly in about third position. Tacking on the ley line there onto starboard. Maybe they'll be somewhere between third and sixth. I think maybe Sleds in the left is actually going to get in the hunt here as well. So Gladiator, who had to tack out early, they should be a little bit middle of the pack. We'll have to see as they come together. Sled might even be fighting for this second place, actually. Sled might have the ability to leap out Platoon here on the ley line. The question is if they've called a really tight ley line or not. And I think at the moment it almost looks like both boats on starboard are understood of the ley line. So I don't know that is the case, but I think it's going to be a really difficult ask for Sled to leave out Platoon and hold that lead out. So I think they're going to be hoping to cross and then tack just to weather of Platoon if possible. We'll have to see how that goes through. Luna Rosa, however, is lead bowing behind them. Azura, so Luna Rosa probably thinks that they can lay from there. So yeah, Sled going into the lee bow, just a really nice, tight lee bow, almost clear ahead of Platoon, but not quite clear ahead. They're going to have to fight into high mode here. Hopefully Phoenix bears away in front of them and gives them a little bit of breathing room without giving them bad air. But yeah, I think they're in on the top marks there. So it's Phoenix rounding the top mark, the black mark, and a good solid 2 boat length lead. Showing why they've moved up into second place overall. Apologies, that's just the keepway mark. 2 seconds. And a really, really solid upwind there for those guys on board. Ed Baer doing a great job calling tactics, and Tina Plattner doing a great job helming the boat. Now they go bear away at the top mark, heading towards the offset mark. Behind them, a very tight battle between Sled and Platoon. Sled just eking out a little bit of advantage over Platoon, but they're still overlapped as they round. Those were 2 boats from the middle left, 1 boat from the middle. Platoon actually had to tack off and duck early on, so they've done really well to come up the middle, I think just showing their speed upwind, because it wasn't too many shifts up the middle of that. And then quite a tight fight in the middle of the race course here for the rest of them. Onda just trying to tack in at the top mark there, sort of stuffing Allegra there. We should see some red flags for sure out of that scenario. Azura had just snuck around in front. Allegra still stuck head to wind. Gladiator snuck around outside of all of them. Weathermost boat, I think they probably stayed clear of the fray. It sounds like a whistle. I don't see the judge boat there, but I think we'll probably expect a red flag. Whether it's on Onda is soon to be determined. Allegra still stuck, getting rolled by everyone. They're going to be very upset about that mark rounding. Behind Onda, Poprek rolling over the top of Allegra. Outside of them, Provetsa. Bringing up the rear, interestingly, is Quantum Racing. So they went from looking decent in the middle left to getting ping-ponged up the race course a little bit, and that is not going to be a result that Terry or Dean or Doug DeVos like. So let's see this pack of 6 fighting quite quickly in the back. But unfortunately for Gladiator, a huge rip in their spinnaker. All the way from the bottom clue to the almost top panel, the second panel of down. So this is an unfortunate moment for Gladiator, and I don't know that they see it yet. Nobody looks to be there. They go, someone just saw it, but there's not any massive not any massive running down below to get the next one set up or anything. Meanwhile, Onda doing turns in the back, so that was a penalty called on Onda for that error that they made at the top mark, and I think that was a pretty clear foul. Gladiator and Allegre out the back have jibed the rest of the fleet extending forward on starboard tack, and the interesting move here is going to be whether Gladiator tries to keep sailing downwind with that rip in their kite, or whether they blow it up and then have to go to a new kite, or what the scenario is. We'll let you guys know. We're just keeping an eye on the red spinnaker of Gladiator for now, and otherwise it's a tight battle, at least for the back 7 boats. Top 4 boats, Phoenix has just jibed in the lead. Still very close there, though only 1 boat length to Platoon. But Gladiator seems at the moment to be doing nothing. I think it's the case of those birds doing something might be slower than doing nothing. So just hope and pray that it doesn't, that the rip doesn't get any worse than that.
Yeah, I guess they must have caught it on the hoist there. It's normally when you rip it from the top to the bottom, it's caught on the staunch as you go up. But high drama at the top mark, though. Onda really making a bit of a meal of things there, tacking over, and feel very sorry for Allegro getting caught up in all of that and spat out the back door.
I mean, that was happening from quite far out for Onda, trying to come in that really thin ley line. Just trying to shoot too late with no power, ending up on the mark. But all credit to Phoenix. Luna Rossa battling for third. If they could get third, I think that would just give them the overall lead going into the final day. At the moment, they're just be tied with Phoenix. Phoenix could be leading in terms of points as they went round the top mark anyway.
The Platoon just driving now the final of the top 3 boats. Gladiator and Paprex still continuing on starboard behind them. I don't really remember where Luna Rossa was, but I think they were back in the melee. Yeah, it looks like they're back in the melee a little bit. So if the scores were to stay as they are right now, Phoenix would not only be leading this race, but they would be leading overall as well, wouldn't they, Andy?
They would. I think we have Luna Rossa in third, so I think Luna Rossa would just either be tied or just 1 point ahead.
Gotcha.
But I mean, credit to Luna Rossa, they really have pulled themselves up in the top part of that beat. Converging just now downwind with the converging with Platoon downwind.
Yeah, exactly. If it is a tie, it'll go to Phoenix, because
the last
race would actually be their second race win, so that would be impressive. But I think it's a long way to go before we can say how this race is actually going to stack up. I mean, considering how the last race went with what looked like a pretty easy lead, getting passed right at the final upwind mark of the final downwind. There goes Gladiator as we speak about them with a jibe. Now, it is not a pretty jibe. We know their kite is ripped, almost matched to bottom. And was it a jibe peel? I don't see the rip anymore, but I also don't see
it's a peel, certainly, but
it's a jibe peel, that's for sure, but a really messy one. With the jib up, or is it the jib up inside of that as well? And I don't think so. There hasn't been able to get enough air into the sail for it to fill properly with that jib in the way. I'm surprised.
Yeah, but it's also still got 2 meters to go up the
so
the
get it
halyard.
up. Yeah, tricky one. Then I guess they put the jib up to look after, worrying that the other sail might, the old sail might have blown out. But in reality, with the jibe peel, you wouldn't want the jib in there because it's the lightest form of peel. Clever to pull it off. They're always good if you pull them off properly. But they can make you look an absolute fool if you don't get it right.
That's for sure a loss there.
So Platoon versus Luna Rossa. Platoon in third. And inside going downwind. Certainly the best race we've seen here in Zadar. If we could 2 like this tomorrow, everybody would be happy, I think.
Yeah, it'd be great. But they probably wouldn't be able to take it this late, though, would they, in the day? So Luna Rossa looking like they got good pressure there in the shot we have. Closing in on Sled. And it was Sled and them at the top mark, wasn't it, that were right behind Phoenix. helping Phoenix to get a little more of a couple of more boat lengths as they tussle with each other.
The sled crossing in front.
And jibing.
Yeah. So you have any questions about this race, about the fleet, about the sailors, anything at all, do send us a message on Twitter at 52 Super Series. And the questions will apparently be answered by me, but I'll probably pass them to Guy or Jenny. But let's have your questions. Who would have thought, with all due respect, that Phoenix would be pitching for the podium at their first regatta with Tina Plattner steering? Fantastic performance.
Lunarosa just did a little double jibe there. I'm not sure if maybe they were being affected by sled statter earlier.
Yeah, I think they just wanted to clear on them, yeah.
Yeah. It might be a loss, but hopefully it gives them a touch of leverage to get back into this. Although I guess it depends on who you're rooting for, whether it's for Lunarosa or for Phoenix. Maybe the double jibe only helps Phoenix at this moment.
We're seeing a bit of a gain to Azura. If we could just maybe pick them up. But they've come down the left side, have they? Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't really been following them yet.
Azura seemed to have found something down that left side. Jenny chasing Phoenix.
Yeah, and I think
furthest
fair
out.
enough. We saw it pay on the last downwind of the last race as well. We saw what was kind of a big right stiff that time and better breeze, and I think because the breeze is so far left now compared to what we've seen all day, it's not a surprise if we see it go back a tiny bit right now that we're sort of at the sea breeze area, because the gradient breeze way above us here is still much further right than the sea breeze. So seeing that side pay off a little bit isn't too much of a surprise. I don't know that I would have bet on it necessarily, but I think because those guys were so deep as they rounded the top mark, it was an early jibe for both of them, and I think maybe Onda as well as Crevetta to try to get some leverage on the rest of the pack. And because the pack in front was also close, it means big gains to them. And I think, unfortunately, one of the boats who's lost out of the pack being so close and going the wrong side is Gladiator. They've obviously lost out because of the kite rip and the bad jibe with the jib up as well. But I think we might see them going from what was sort of more like a fourth to almost a second last year, which is going to be heartbreaking for those guys, having just had a better race, second place in the last race. But yeah, Phoenix still in the lead, coming back over from the far side. I think it's Azura just behind them. And it looks like Azura, as you're saying, might be challenging Platoon for second place. I don't know that they will be clear across. Platoon, of course, the giveaway boat there, so Azura can be clear across if Platoon takes their stern. But it's interesting. We still can't tell from here who's going to win that matchup, to be honest. And Platoon doesn't look like they're driving yet, but they're rolling into the dive now. So Platoon trying to place themselves to be in the best position for giving Azura bad air, or are they just actually, no, apologies, they're just easing their kite, going into the jibe now. Easing their kite going into the jibe, and I think will be in a good spot to affect Azura's bad air here, but they're only about 15 boat lengths to the bottom marks now, so a really good downwind for Azura there.
But also for Phoenix, I mean, they rounded that top mark 2 boats clear, and they've seemed to have pulled out a bit. It's like we're seeing 90-meter lead. Nice job.
Nice job and nice drop.
Yeah.
Nice and safe coming around the right-hand mark. Looking upwind. We've just got a fair bit of bias on it, would you not say?
Massive bias here, I think, on the marks. It looks like the left-hand mark has dragged, and anchor line has to have dragged. That's strangely, I don't think the whole fleet has really recognized that. Now it looks like they have. And Azura going for the jibe. Inside, they'll have room on Platoon for sure. But they're having to go very deep in their wing-on-wing at the moment, which is not something you see very often. So the Italian team just misjudged their drop a little bit. I think we're aiming for the opposite mark and then saw the line bias finally, and so had to try to keep their advantage inside. But
somebody's going to the left-hand mark.
The inside. They're going pretty slow there.
No.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and again, I think it's easy to see from outside, but when you're distracted with everything else going on, to have that amount of bias, which is probably only one length of bias. It looks so clear, but it's not necessarily.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say fault to Vasco Vizcato and Luna Rosa that they picked the left side, and the right side was so crowded. There's so much traffic that maybe it's worth that.
Absolutely, just what I was thinking. I mean, when you see Luna Rosa coming out of the mark in the aerial shot, it's not terrible. They're coming out in a reasonable angle, and say they're right out of the traffic. Especially when you see how busy it is just now, and Allegra coming to this left-hand mark also.
Allegra here. Quantum Gladiator tried to sneak inside Preveza there. Didn't really. I think they've sort of maybe just fouled Preveza. Mainsail completely out on Gladiator, luffing badly kind of both of their sails. This might also be a penalty. And the same with Preveza, mainsail luffing. So they might even be entangled here, you guys. I think Souted, Stern, that could have been an ugly collision. It's hard to tell from where we are on the race course, but I don't think both sails would be luffing like that unless they were actually having some issues. I don't know if you could see better on the TV than I can see by the naked eye.
Yeah, it looks like Gladiator heading downwind.
Yeah, I don't know whether I saw the prod on there. I was worried that I might have to go and start warming the grinder up.
Guy just leaves the show to go, okay, my real duty is boat captain, and I have a boat that needs captaining.
That's right. Hopefully my shore team are listening and watching this, and start getting the tools out, lads. So actually, they're going around the back of his motorboat there. We'll get a good look at it.
Yeah. But in the meantime, all good for Phoenix. Sled up to second just now, according to Virtual.
I'm glad they're really packing it in here, you guys. I think they're sailing home. So unfortunately, first a broken spinnaker, and then whatever that accident was, if he's had it on board, Tony Linkley, as you said, went by his spectator boat and is out of here. But okay, yeah, back to the front of the pack. I can't see as well as you guys can. Tell us what's going on.
Yeah, indeed. Well, actually, for Luna Rossa having made that gain, and Luna Rossa going around that left-hand mark, they made a little bit of a gain relative to Azura. And Platoon also. So really it's going to be incredibly tight at the top of the table after this race.
Yeah, I think just by staying clear and keeping clear air has helped them. There's so much of a mess going on around the mark.
Not going so well upwind just now. Looks like the breeze has dropped just a very little. Indeed, they're bailing out of there. Yeah. Go on, Jenny.
Breeze is really nicely up at the moment. I mean, earlier it was phasing up and down and shifting in the phases, and now it's just a solid sea breeze at this 15, 16 knot ferry, and it doesn't look like it's really letting up at any point in time. So I think all the teams hiking to the amount that their stomachs will allow them on these lifelines. I think we can see from the left, maybe even a tiny bit more of a left shift here on Luna Rossa. They've just tacked, and they look to be very high on port tack. So possibly, as you were saying earlier, maybe some losses to Phoenix if other guys are getting onto... gains to Phoenix, possibly, if they get onto port sooner than, say, Azura and Quantum behind them. But Luna Rossa just taking the stern there of Platoon. Platoon, Poprek, and Phoenix in a good little lineup here, although they're quite separated down the leaderboard. And then Sled out on the furthest left has yet to tack back up. So Sled's a little bit held out here by Poprek and Platoon. Their positioning, they've got to really make sure when they tack that they are for sure crossing the French boat. And if they know what they're doing with Platoon, whether they can cross or whether they're going to have to duck. And I think it looks like Sled might have made some gains and should be able to cross soon. I don't know if that's what it looks like on Virtual Eye.
Yeah, looking like Phoenix has done okay. A little bit more of a gain to them.
Certainly over 100 metres clear and 15, 16 knots of breeze on the final beat of the day. You'd be fairly happy on the Phoenix, wouldn't you?
I think you would, yeah. And I guess Azura's got to be feeling better about this result as well.
Yeah. And at the same time, Platoon and Luna Rossa having Azura and Sled between them and the team which is going to be leading the regatta. It's going to be all on tomorrow.
They like to set us up for a final Super Sunday, don't they?
Invariably happens. It's either one thing or the other. There's either no wind or we have a edge of the seat nail biter.
You know, interesting here, out on the edge, it looks like Sled's in a very different groove than the at least the two boats nearest us. They're much more twisty. They're kind of sailing a bit looser, a bit wider, and I want to say it's very fast. I think it looks like they're making gains all the time on Platoon and Top Wreck. I'm not sure, again, if that's actually the case, since we have trackers telling us their boat speeds. But to me, it looks like their setup is helping them to go well, and I think ideally they're just aiming for that ability to tack across. Unclear whether they will be able to, but.
No, Azura looking like they're going well, and the virtual eye showing them gaining on Phoenix all the time.
So certainly a lift for the Azura team when they most needed it. There was a few smiles going afloat this morning, but it was a pretty tough couple of days for them.
There goes Sled with their tack. In fact, I think looks like easily crossing Platoon at the moment. So they should still be sitting third behind Azura and Phoenix. You know, the cool thing, Andy, we were talking about this offline in between the races, but there have been 5 races so far and 5 different winners. So if Phoenix takes this win, they'll be the first one to get 2 bullets. Oh, Sled going for the duck. Eases their mainsail out and Platoon faces them, so Sled went with a really hard mainsail eased tack, which is pretty ugly, as we all know. You have no power to help you steer the boat up and into it, but I think it was probably necessary as they were so wide already. They would have been hurting to weather a Platoon there. So an unfortunate scenario for Sled that they thought they could cross and they couldn't cross, and then didn't really execute the duck as well as they would have liked. I think Platoon did the perfect job there of sending them back when they had to, and Sled unfortunately tacked off and didn't really even accelerate and have now tacked back onto port. So that'll be a big loss for Sled compared to Platoon in that fight for third place in this race.
And meantime, while that drama's been going on there, Quantum quietly chipping away to the right side. Bearing in mind they were 9th at the top mark first time up. We have them in third/4th. But certainly making gains and going well. Staying clear of the dramas. Just to think to weather of Luna Rossa. A little bit of right phrase breeze there, I think, for Luna Rossa and Quantum, looking at the way they're sailing to the right, coming good, I think.
Yeah, it looks like they are definitely across Platoon and Sled here. So for both Luna Rossa and Quantum, big gains from kind of the right and the left, because Luna Rossa was the boat that rounded the left-hand mark.
That's right, but they've got back to the right, haven't they? Yeah.
It's made it play either way.
But that's a bit of a loss to Platoon and Sled in the meantime. Very shifty. However, Ed Baird and the Phoenix team staying in reasonably in phase with it.
You know, Azura chipping away on virtual here.
You know, I think the impressive comeback here might as well be to Onda, because let's not forget that they thought at the top mark were spinning were kind of deeply in last after everyone had rounded, and I think they did some good wheels on the downwind, and then they've made it out to the right-hand side to come back. It looks to me like possibly crossing Platoon, definitely maybe crossing Sled, so that's a huge jump through the rankings compared to where they were when they were spinning and had just fouled.
But this is all to the good for Tina Plattner and the team on our South African flag boat on the Phoenix. They have Luna Rossa in 5th now and Platoon in 6th.
So does that have Onda in 3rd then? Is that what Virtualized say? It looks to me like Phoenix, clearly Azura still in 2nd. But then I guess it's a question mark on the water, whether Quantum and Luna Rossa from the left or whether Onda now and even Platoon from the right will be that bronze position in this race. But I think that would be a phenomenal feat if it's the Brazilians able to pull that off. That would be spectacular.
Sled has slipped quite a way down this beat, haven't they?
Considering they were 4th a minute ago, and Luna Rossa perhaps a little bit exposed out in that left side relative to their main opposition.
Whereas Provetza seems to work the right-hand side.
Yeah, they're going to come in.
Haven't done very well out of it, have they? I think they're
Not
still
yet.
a bit upset.
Not yet.
They've still got the blues from Gladiator, I think.
Luna Rossa have Tack here out on the left, and Quantum Racing came up and lead out, actually a very loose lead out, about 3 boat lengths of a lead out. So I think concerned about starboard ley line, possibility of needing to pull off attack later on maybe. And the concern for Quantum, it might be with Azura. So maybe Quantum and Luna Rossa have made some gains to Azura here.
So I'm going to pass this question to you, Jenny. The question from Alessandro. Why did Luna Rossa decide to do 2 quick tacks during the first race today?
Sorry, why did who do 2 quick tacks?
Luna Rossa decided to do 2 quick tacks during the first race today. So that's a question from Alessandro, who I'd imagine is a Luna Rossa fan. May not be, but...
Why did Luna Rossa do 2 quick tacks? I think that's more a coaching statement than a question. I think if they could take that back.
That's the lawyer in you coming out. I think that's a question. That's a question that Jenny Tulloch will be putting to Vasco Vascotto later on the Facebook Live.
I'm gonna phrase that nicely, like you guys just did. It's not my own question. This one comes from Alessandro.
This question comes from Patricio Bertelli.
Yeah. Why did you do the 2 unforced tacks? I mean, just here now, we're seeing Quantum is about to have to do 2 tacks because Azura's just faced Quantum. So Quantum has just done 1, and about 4 seconds later, they're rolling into their second one. Now, if Vasco says that back to me, we'll all know he's lying because that did not happen when it went on earlier this race. And yeah, honestly, you guys, that was a massive mistake for them, I think, and they're going to be feeling it and debriefing it because they tucked the fleet, then they sort of tacked back just all within a 1-minute window, and it was painful, and that's why we're still discussing it at a race and a half later. But Luna Rossa doing a better job in this race, but as we said earlier, Onda's doing the best job by miles to have gone from last to either 3rd or 4th. They're fighting here with Quantum Racing, yeah, and if Quantum can pull off the lee bow at the ley line, then they'll be 4th. But remains to be seen whether they can do that, but I think so. It looks like Doug DeVos is not putting his bow down at all. He is staying high, so I think they're aiming for either the cross or the lee bow on Onda, but well done to Edward D'Souza and Robert Scheidt, particularly for oh no, here goes Quantum with a huge duck, so they are going for the duck on the line. So either Onda has called it too early, or they think they wouldn't have been able to sit there both behind Azura's gas and also with Onda outside of them. So Quantum has gone massive duck and then a big tack at once, which is going to be very slow for them, as we know, to go from so deep and so mainsail wide to tacking through it. So Quantum will continue to lose platoon behind them, and that's moved Onda from all the way in last after fouling at the top mark to third place, which I think is just awesome for, as we were talking about earlier, such a new team to the series this year. So really, really good job to the Brazilians. And again, of course, a great job here to the South African team, rounding the offset mark for what will be the first team to take 2 wins in the Zadar Royal Cup. And the kite is up and it is flying and it looks beautiful. And I think the spacing and the distance behind them, this 5 boat length lead that they have, now I don't want to jinx them, but it's probably enough to allow them to keep this win. We know, though, anything can happen. Last time on the Downwind, the boat leading by almost that much, Gladiator got rolled by Allegra just in about this positioning. So for Phoenix fans out there, let's hope that they can pull this off. And behind them, rounding in second place now, Azura, the Italians, with a good upwind there to get up into second. And as we said before, Brazilians into third, just behind the Brazilians. Quantum Racing, skippered by Doug DeVos, this regatta into fourth after a last-minute duck on the line. And behind Quantum, we have got Platoon moved up into fifth from what I think was deeper throughout the race, although they've been up and down. It's been a very shifty race, and they haven't done nearly as well as Onda did. Then behind them, Luna Rosa into sixth. Again, they've been up and down, and this is a down moment for them. I think they were as high as third earlier in the regatta. And behind Luna Rosa, seventh is Provetza. So, Guy, your team's come through the pack a little bit there, using that right side to their advantage. Big gains for them over Sled, who at points was way further up the leaderboard. I think Sled was top 4, if not top 3. Behind Sled, Allegra, who's been having a tough race the whole time around, and behind Allegra, Paprec. But really well done to Provetza to go from what was last at the bottom mark in a collision with Gladiator, which forced Gladiator to retire, to definitely not a last place position now. Now, I don't know if you guys see this on Sled, but Sled has a massive wrap at the top of their spinnaker. Their spinnaker in their jibe set did not clear the jib, and instead, just now coming undone. But it was probably a little bit too soon of a sneak on the kite of the trim, and so it filled early. And when it filled early, it filled inside and wrapped itself around the jib, and they actually didn't even have it all the way up at the top of the halyard yet, or they dropped the halyard to get the blind glass out. But that was an unfortunate error for Sled, and what could have been a really helpful jibe set to try to make some gains there. But I think forward, it looks like Phoenix still in the lead. They've jibed early, protecting against Azura, who's jibed inside as well. And then Onda and Provetza are the only two left heading out to the right side looking downwind.
So really nothing very much between Azura and Quantum. 4 or 5 meters, and that one could go any way.
I'm actually a bit surprised Azura didn't jibe sooner, but I think maybe they haven't been in the position yet to see how much the early jibe can be of an advantage on these downwinds. They've been kind of fighting through the pack in many ways and not been the boat that's made some big gains by the early jibe. So I think Quantum has sort of seen it happen around them. If not, maybe they were one of the ones to make a gain doing that early last time. So I'm not surprised to see that that's become a little duel between those two. But let's hope at this point that Azura is able to keep ahead and keep in second, because they're definitely a bit deeper on the scoreboard overall in this regatta.
So we're on board with Onda Guy. What can we see here? We can see
fairly tense trimming going on there.
Yeah.
But weight's still out of the back of the boat, so fairly light, not.
So let's see how this battle between Azura and Quantum is going. Well, there you go. Quantum seem to be certainly very close with Azura, if not up to second.
Yeah, they're on that sort of favoured left hand.
Yeah.
A little bit more pressure possibly.
Azura could, yeah.
Another solid job by Quantum though, isn't it?
Oh.
It pains me to say it. They do it very, very well. Yeah, now virtual ice showing me my boat back in last place, or 10th.
10th.
Yeah. Not so good.
And meantime, Luna Rossa in 7th. And the way it stands at the moment, then, yeah, the way it stands at the moment, Phoenix would go into the final day with a lead of 3 points. Four points, in fact.
Couldn't have asked for more.
Yeah, that'd be very nice, tidy amount to have.
And the way they've sailed, you know, you would you'd be prepared to have a bit of a bet on that one, wouldn't you?
Yeah, they've sailed very well, haven't they? They haven't.
You know, they've been consistent, you know.
Yeah.
And they've not made many mistakes.
They found themselves some clear air. They haven't got involved with anything, have they? They've sure there's a bit of luck there, but in reality, it comes from just sailing well, putting yourself in the right place at the right time.
Got a few guys who sailed with Ed on the Quantum Racing with them, Tom Burnham and a couple of others, I think.
Yeah, you've got it.
When you're looking for a steady team around new owner drivers, then that really helps.
Yeah, you've got Alan Smith in the pit there.
Yeah,
A massive amount of experience. Yeah, Quantum looking like they're winning that battle. To Azura, a bit of a shame on Azura there, and they've done well to get back up in front, and now they'll lose it. Sled going okay behind them though, isn't it? Still on that left-hand side of the course. Weren't we with them?
Yeah.
Wonder whether there's a bit more wrong with our boat than how can we drop out that far?
I think it's just that old story of getting into the traffic and getting bounced around, and it's
having a tough day. Maybe they'll show us the feed from on board my boat and see what the feeling is there.
So far here, none of what you might consider the favourites or traditional top teams have won a race. Platoon, Quantum or Azura so far. Luna Rossa there going down that middle left downwind, I think. This is a bit of a telling day for them, Jenny, isn't it, Luna Rossa?
No, I think it's been a really difficult day for them to go into the day thinking you're still at the top of the leaderboard by so many points as well. I mean, they had a, well, I guess it was a 3-point lead.
Yeah.
But it's not Platoon that they're losing to anymore. Platoon's also had kind of a tough day, and it's Phoenix who's come through the ranks. I guess that's the whole term of the Phoenix, isn't it? Rising like a phoenix from its ashes, and they haven't even had ashes to rise from. So for them to be on top at the end of the day, it's an awesome job. I mean, it's super gratifying right now to see them just extend this lead on this downwind. They went from what was sort of a 2-boat length lead at the top mark to a 3 to 4 boat length lead at the next one to a 5 boat length lead at the final upwind. And I think now it almost looks like 10 boat lengths, and it And it makes you smile, I think, when a lead changes like this in a regatta, and yet the boat that's now winning is doing so well and is coming through, and especially, again, as we've said, is a new driver to the class and sort of a new dynamic of a team altogether. And I think just seeing it all come together for them, for their trimmers on the downwind like this, I mean, they're doing a great job. Tony North, I think, is their downwind trimmer, and then they've got Paul Wilcox in the main, but they've clearly all seemed to be in sync, and the practice that they've done in the past in Palma has paid off, and I think the buzz on that boat is going to be amazing. And I've got to guess that a certain man will be singing some South African songs, even if it's a different South African team on the dock. But we've still got a whole nother day of racing tomorrow to go to solidify who is actually going to take home this trophy, and it's just going to be very, very tight sailing either way. But I think this is a beautiful race to be watching, and just to see someone emerge as a leader in this race when the rest of the pack has been so up and down. The second to almost 9th place, even 10th place, has been so changeable throughout the rest of the race. I mean, Luna Rosa, we're talking about right now, are in 7th or maybe 8th or 9th, but at points they were in 2nd or even 3rd. And the same with Sled, they were 3rd and dropped back, and the same with Quantum was sort of deep and has moved forward. And I think it shows how shifty it's been. It shows how hard a race it's been, and really well done to Phoenix and to Ed Baird and Tommy Burnham, I guess, helped a little bit with the strategy as well. But they just did a phenomenal job here today, and generally, as you guys said, not really putting a foot too far wrong.
No, certainly amazing job, and it looks like they've got loads of confidence, enjoying the day out there and just getting on with winning races. It's really impressive to see in this fleet for the first time. Really well done to the Phoenix team. If only it was so easy.
Yeah, the great thing about the Phoenix story, of course, is that Hasso and team bought the Phoenix because it was an opportunity. Wanted to sail a TP52. They had such a good time racing, particularly at the Copa del Rey last year, with Ed Baird and some of the guys. So I mean, it's not an entirely new team that he elected to take the next step up and move into or build a new boat. And they have a great team, and it's paying off for them.
Taking the lead in this race and emphatically putting their lead on the regatta. Behind them, though, we were talking about what a tight battle it is, and you guys, it is too close to call for the second place. I think it'll be Quantum Racing.
Looks like
it. Can't exactly see. It looks like Quantum crossing just barely in front, but behind them, between Azura and I can't even see the boat in the middle of the platoon.
Azura.
Yeah, between Azura and Platoon, I think Azura
actually
just
Azura
tipping
made
into second place.
Azura
third place,
third.
and Platoon having to cross in 4th. And then it's not over from there, so the battle's still for 5th. Keeps going with Onda and Sled. We've got Sled, I think, maybe very last second, and such a bummer because I was so excited for Onda having a great race, but I think Sled is tipping them here at the finish line. So well done to Sled, who was up there, then dropped back, then just got back in at the finish, and that'll be 5th and 6th behind. Again, another tight battle. Luna Rosa holding off Poprek here, and just barely. They're overlapped all the way from bow to mast. So Luna Rosa just getting Poprek at the end, and then Preveza coming through. Not quite what you'd like, Guy, but yeah, gonna get Allegre at the end, and Allegre just crossing within 2 seconds of Preveza, and that is the entire fleet because Gladiators retired. So that was from 1st to 10th place in probably the span of, I don't know, 40 seconds maybe. That was an incredible battle the whole way around the racetrack, and I think Zadar and the Adriatic Sea this afternoon have delivered with some really solid breeze and some really excellent, entertaining racing, and a new leader and a new leaderboard altogether in terms of positioning the way that they are. So I think really, really cool racing out here, you guys.
Indeed. So I think Phoenix should go on to the water tomorrow with a lead of 3 points over Luna Rosa, and Platoon would be 1 point further behind. That's according to my very, very basic arithmetic. Guy, would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Don't mention Preveza.
Exactly, but tomorrow's going to be a better day for the Preveza with Guy on board.
Yeah, looking forward to it very much.
But yeah, I mean, not such a good day for the Luna Rosa. Pretty solid for Quantum Racing. Had a pretty good day in the end, Jenny.
Sorry again, Andy.
I'm just saying Quantum Racing had a pretty decent day in the end.
You know, I don't actually remember their scores, but it was better than the rest of the week.
No, of
for
course.
sure. I think we've seen them play in and out in a second at the end. Being able to move through the fleet into second is going to make Doug happy. And I don't know, it was such a tough race course. I think that no one is going to feel confident getting back to, well, maybe Phoenix will feel confident getting back to shore, but for all of them, it was really, really tight, really tricky racing. I mean, think about it. Allegre went from first in the first race to last in the second race, or second last because Gladiator had retired. Much the same, Gladiator went from second in the first race to retirement. So for Phoenix to have a solid day there, for Gladiator to have a solid day there, and even Platoon to have a semi-solid day. It's not the 2 seconds that they had the other day, but just to pull any good races out of the bag here, it was a very mixed bag of conditions in many ways, and I think it was probably a lot of hairs pulled on board the boats, if not by the tacticians, definitely by the strategists and probably some of the helmsmen for how tight the racing is. And unfortunately, we only saw the one collision guy, and I hope it doesn't mean you're having a really intensely like fixing whatever happened on board Regatta, but best of luck to you with whatever that is.
Yeah, well, thanks very much. Yeah, what a great second race, and if only all week they were like that. It was a really good breeze, and I think obviously a lot of fun to sail for all those guys. Lead changing quite a few times, well, not the lead, but you know, good tight races amongst the course. Great day.
Yeah, and a great day. Looking forward to tomorrow, as we said. Then Phoenix, Tina Plattner, Ed Baird, and the team on the South African flagged boat, our first South African flagged team in the 52 Super Series, heading into the final day. A Super Sunday with a lead of 3 points over Luna Rossa. Luna Rossa went onto the water today with a lead of 3 points. They're now 3 points behind, and the ever consistent Platoon not quite so good with that 8th in the first race today, but they're in third on 26 points. Sled not out of it on 28. Quantum Racing moving up the leaderboard to 5th on 32 points. They did a 3 and a 2 today. Allegre won that race previously, but not good in the second race. In 6th now on 35. Provezza 7th, 42. Gladiator 44. Azzurra, 52 Super Series champions, in 9th. A better race for them the second time round. Then Onda on 47, and Paprec on 11th place on 53 points. So it should be a real humdinger of a final day. Unfortunately, our final day of racing in Croatia. Guy, a few words about Croatia in general. It's been a real find coming here, hasn't it?
It's been a wonderful venue. I've been really well looked after, been well entertained, and what a beautiful place.
Jenny, what's going to happen tomorrow then? Your best guesses?
It's going to be a nail biter. I don't know. I mean, today I was hoping for Phoenix and saying I didn't think it would happen. So I don't know if maybe I should say the same for tomorrow. But I definitely think it's going to be very, very intense racing. Hopefully we'll have 2 race days. Again, we know that the sea breeze likes to build a bit later in the afternoon here. So looking to start at 12 again, I think, tomorrow. But we never know. It's going to be stay tuned to our social media channels across the whole board. And I think it's going to be really tight. I don't know if Phoenix can have a day like they did today again. So maybe we'll see Luna Rossa try to recamp themselves overnight, figure out what they did wrong, and do it right again tomorrow, or Platoon just go their steady, solid way. But it's going to be anyone's guess, and I think it's going to be amazing to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I think that no matter what, were Phoenix able to pull it off, it would be hugely popular. Just looking at Tina Plattner there, our pictures showing her and her partner, Ed Baird, the steadying influence. She'll be in for a beer. She likes to leave the boat, comes in for a quiet beer and reflects on the day, and then they'll debrief. But if you want somebody at your side, as I say, into this final day, there's Willie Beavis there in the dark jacket. So what a beautiful race area as well. And it's going to be our arena for the final day tomorrow, with Phoenix with that small lead. They could be the first South African team, their first female skipper or female helmsman to win a regatta. They're under pressure from Luna Rossa, the most emblematic of Italian teams. Huge support. We know that our numbers spiked significantly as soon as Luna Rossa came on the scene, and Platoon, the German efficiency with the multinational
support all the way through the boat. Guy, who's your money on tomorrow?
Well, I guess it's got to be Tina and the Phoenix team. For sure.
Anyway, let's wait and see. Do join us tomorrow. We'll be live at about 15 minutes before racing. Racing should be, I think, scheduled for midday, and hopefully we get a good breeze. Thanks for joining us today, as ever. If there's any questions, post them on Twitter overnight, and we'll try and get to you tomorrow. But do join us for the final day of the Zadar Royal Cup.